Warning, the following podcast contains adult language, themes, and situations. Also, the film we're about to talk about is going to be spoiled thoroughly. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy this show.
Francis Ford Coppola was already a legend in 1986, having made a slew of cinematic masterpieces like Apocalypse Now and the first two Godfather films. So it's not a shock that he was slightly pissed when he cast his nephew Nick in one of his films, and he rewarded one of the most celebrated directors ever to live by turning his character into a live-action cartoon. Come along as we give all our love and kisses to the final collaboration Nicolas Cage and his uncle made together. Peggy Sue Got Married.
Okay, let's run.
I'm like a prickly pear.
What do you say we cut the chit-chat? A-hole! Porker, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
Hey, have you ever been dragged to the sidewalk and beat until you
Pissed blood!
Welcome to One Cage at a Time, the show where we break down every single Nicolas Cage movie, one film at a time. Here are your hosts, Patrick, Vince, and Nigel.
Peggy Sue Bodell and her cheating husband, Crazy Charlie, are on the verge of divorce, but when Peggy Sue attends her 25-year high school reunion, she is somehow transported back to high school, where she gets a second chance to see if she'd fall in love with that big-toothed, goofy-voiced weirdo all over again.
Let's meet the stars of the film.
Peggy Sue Got Married stars legendary Jewel of the Nile actress and 80s sex symbol Kathleen Turner, who was nominated for Academy Award for this film, a pre-Ace Ventura superstardom Jim Carrey, Seventh Heaven star Catherine Hicks, Academy Award-winning actress Ellen Hunt, Sean Archer's wife from Face Off, Joan Allen, and of course, Academy Award-winning actor and undisputed prom king Nicolas Kim Coppola, better known as Nicolas Cage.
It's time to go over some of the finer details.
All right. Back. Season 4. Can you believe we've been doing this for 4 years
We've done
already?
3 seasons.
This is number 4, man.
Thank God the internet can't take us down. I mean,
Well, it helps that nobody's watching, so.
yeah, I was going to say,
Hopefully we get them all recorded before somebody figures it out.
Peggy Sue Got Married was released on October 10th, 1986. Had a budget of $18 million and made $41.5 million. So,
Damn.
made a profit. I feel like a lot of these Coppola movies before 1990-ish were kind of this same sort of model where they weren't like huge, but they were bigger budget, but not, Godfather-esque or Apocalypse Now-esque. But he seems to run into the same issues on every single film that he does, where he goes over budget, ends up completely going back into the edit like 6 months later and reshooting stuff, which is no different in this film, which we'll get to. But, of course, directed by the legendary Francis Ford Coppola, who is Nicolas Cage's uncle, as we well know by now on this show, unless you're only watching this episode. Widely considered to be one of the greatest directors of all time, if not the greatest director of all time. 5 Academy Awards, 6 Golden Globes, 2 Palme d'Ors, and a BAFTA. Palme d'Or, of course, is like best in film in Cannes, so the best film shown at Cannes wins the Palme d'Or, which is a huge honor.
Was Peggy Sue Got Married?
2, yeah. Not Peggy Sue Got Married.
I know. What? That'd be a bizarro world.
Yeah, I'm guessing it was probably one of the Godfathers and probably Apocalypse Now.
Godfather Part 3.
Yeah, Godfather 3, which we will get to. Sofia Coppola, of course, is in this film, and we will talk about her at length. Francis Ford Coppola, of course, is the son of legendary composer Carmine Coppola. A lot of nepotism in this family. But it all started with Carmine Coppola, who actually ended up becoming famous largely because of his son. because he was kind of like a musician before, but wasn't like super well known until he did the music for The Godfather, and that's when his career took off. So I guess it was reverse nepotism.
It's uncletism.
Uncletism.
Uncletism. I don't know what. But nepotism means like nephew-tism, whatever. Nepote means nephew in Italian.
Well, I mean, Nick Cage is definitely.
Yeah.
And of course, like the rest of the family, he of course is Carmine is the father of August, which is Nick's dad, and then Talia Shire, of course, and is Nick's grandfather, Sofia Coppola's grandfather, who's also in this film, Roman Coppola, Jason Schwartzman, Robert Schwartzman, and the late Giancarlo Coppola, who I had never really heard of, but that was Francis's son, who actually died not too much before this film came out, which is pretty sad. He died in a speedboat accident. I don't know if it was while they were shooting, but I think he died like shortly before the film came out. But in Coppola timelines, that's like a year and a half before. So, you know, he actually went back. We'll talk about it in the quick facts, but he went back into the edit 6 months after they were finished with the film because he didn't think there were enough tears, aren't enough sad moments, the tear jerkers. Which I would argue there are still none. But
yeah. What did he add?
Yeah, I want to know what he added.
I think that it's that whole ending with Crazy Charlie in the hospital, all of that stuff, because you can tell like Nick Cage's hair is completely different.
Way different.
I didn't even notice that, but
oh god, yeah.
Maybe she was supposed to be in a coma for like 6 months.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, that explains it. Yeah, he just let himself go during that time.
Yeah, coked out a little bit.
Francis Ford Coppola also co-wrote Patton, which I did not know, the George C. Scott film, which won him his first Oscar. The Godfather films, 1 through 3. We can't throw out 3. Though I'd like, okay, I've rewatched all 3 of them several times, and I will say 3 is not a terrible movie. It is a terrible movie compared to 1 and 2, but it is not a bad movie. It's actually a pretty decent movie. And I feel like it did wrap things up fairly well with Michael Corleone. But in comparison, holy shit. You got these 2 masterpieces and then you got that thing.
I don't think I've seen the third one. I've seen the first 2, but I don't think I got around to seeing the third one.
The biggest criticism of the third one is Sofia Coppola. I would say that's
so what you're saying is like the Godfather 3 is like the Spider-Man 3 of the Godfather trilogy.
Yes.
Where like on its own it's not horrible, but when you compare it to the first 2, definitely a step down.
Pretty spot on comparison.
Yeah. Spider-Man 3 is our modern day
equivalent.
Godfather 3.
It's just millennial Godfather 3.
He also did my favorite film of all time. This is like a 2-way tie between Apocalypse Now and The Shining, but Apocalypse Now is like forever etched in my brain as like one of my favorite films of all time. It's a masterpiece, but of course it was like wrought with peril through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Production was completely wiped out at one point because of a hurricane and like it was just way over budget and nobody even knew what was going on. And then, he ended up delivering this incredible film, but the studio was not happy. Same thing happened here on this film, but we'll get to that. Also worked with Nick on Rumblefish and The Cotton Club. So we will be talking about Francis Ford Coppola more, but this is the only like starring role for Nick in a Coppola film. Those other ones, he's more of like a side character. We'll also get into it in the quick facts, but like, he probably would have ended up working with his uncle a lot more had he not made some of the choices that he made during this film, which to me actually make the film much more enjoyable. His choices.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be annoyed more by that voice, but it was the least problematic thing in this film.
Yeah. It was written by Jerry Lightning. Jerry McQueen. And Arlene Sarner, who are a married writing team, who also wrote Blue Sky from 1994 and Switched at Birth in 1999. That's pretty much all they've written as far as like big projects. Not a whole lot of credits that I recognized, or credits in general. There's just not much there. I always wonder about that. Like, how did they make a living? What did they do?
I bet you they probably did a lot of screen doctoring or script doctoring.
Yeah, probably.
I bet, and they just don't get credited for it. There's a lot of that stuff. I bet you they probably wrote a bunch or like fixed a bunch of TV shit.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that Carrie Fisher was a like kind of renowned script doctor.
Yeah. I was gonna say she worked on some pretty famous stuff that people don't know about.
All sorts of things. Like, she went back and really helped like on Hook and like she worked with Spielberg a bunch and with George Lucas, of course. But yeah, great writer.
She couldn't save episode 3 though. Sorry, Nigel.
Episode 9.
No, episode 3.
She couldn't save 9 because she was dead.
Jesus.
She couldn't save any of that trilogy. Shot by Jordan Cronenweth. It's just constant weird names on this show.
Yeah.
Cronenweth. He is known for a very distinctive noir style to his films, which is best seen in Blade Runner, which won him a BAFTA.
Okay, I thought that name sounded super familiar because I just rewatched those movies not that long ago. I was like, man, that name sounds familiar. Yeah.
I remember seeing
super
it.
Familiar name, Cronenweth.
Yeah, it's an odd name. It's
a
hard
very
to forget.
Weird name. Yeah.
Interesting.
But you notice it pretty heavily on the Blade Runner credits, like as they're coming up. Because I feel like those are some of the most iconic credits of like flying over the city and stuff. He won a BAFTA, of course, for Blade Runner. Was also nominated for an Oscar for Blade Runner, but somehow didn't win. I don't know who won, but like Blade Runner is one of the most amazing shot films besides Blade Runner 2049. It, like somehow, and Deakins didn't win for 2049 either. I don't believe, if I remember right, or maybe he did. So. Maybe that was the one because he was like the darling of the Oscars who never won anything. Like he'd been nominated a shit ton. Maybe that was the first one. I don't remember.
I think when Blade Runner came out, it was like you didn't see a lot of sci-fi getting Oscars. So no matter how groundbreaking of a film it was,
it's kind of sad. The Academy has come around to certain things, but not other things. Like anything that makes money, they're not into that.
Yeah, they're still super pretentious.
Yeah,
super pretentious.
Jordan Cronenweth also worked with the great Robert Altman, Jonathan Demme, and of course his old pals with Norman Jewison, and of course Ridley Scott. Many of the directors who we've come across on this show. And of course, Francis Ford Coppola. He unfortunately battled Parkinson's from 1984 until he passed in 1996, which is kind of crazy for a cinematographer to have Parkinson's and still be an Oscar nominated. I mean, you're basically just weighing in on lights and visuals and where things go, and then other people handle the camera. But
then inventing shaky cam.
Yeah. Although I wonder did he shoot the Bourne movies?
No, that was Michael J. Fox. He shot those. He also shot a film called Touch of Satan, which is one of the greatest Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes.
He shot that? That's hilarious.
He shot The Touch of Satan.
Always a good thing you can say about a movie.
Yes.
It's been a great Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode.
I feel like, okay, so the secret to a great Mystery Science Theater episode is the film has to be just good enough. It can't be like really shitty because in the movie the episode is just not as good. The movie has to be just like a certain level of good. And so you need like an Oscar-worthy cinematographer and, you know, a few pieces to fall your way that that make the movie not so shitty that it's just horrible to watch, but actually enjoyable, you know. This was edited by Barry Malkin, who is a frequent collaborator with Coppola, editing 6 of his films, including The Godfather Part 2, which he got an Oscar nomination, but not a win, and a BAFTA win. Also edited Rumplefish and was nominated for The Cotton Club. So we will be talking about him again. And also edited this film that's kind of forgotten weirdly from the early 90s called The Freshman. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. It's kind of like a play on The Godfather where basically Marlon Brando plays the exact same character that he played in The Godfather. Matthew Broderick is like a freshman, and then he gets involved with this mob thing, but it ends up being
Maybe
like
I have seen that movie.
Selling
that rings a
exotic
bell.
meats. Yeah.
Because when you said The Freshman, Matthew Broderick's face popped in my mind, but I don't know if I was just associating Ferris Bueller. If I was just thinking of that
kind
movie.
of a great forgotten film. I actually really enjoyed that movie. It was one of those movies that was on all the time when I was a kid.
It's like a tongue-in-cheek comedy, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of like a parody of the guy. Okay, yeah, maybe I have seen that movie.
Yeah, and they're terrified for their lives the whole time.
Yeah.
It's the guy from the other guy who's in City Slickers. The guy who ended up killing himself in real life.
Oh God, all I can remember is Billy Crystal from those movies. I can't think of anybody else in those films.
And Jack Palance.
Oh yeah, he was in those too. Huh? Fuck. Yeah.
And the guy from Home Alone.
Yeah, I was going to say that guy. He played Marv. What the hell is his name?
Marv.
David Stearns?
Yeah. The narrator from The Wonder Years, too, by the way. And then music by John Barry, who is a English composer who has scored... I think he's passed, but English composer who scored 11 Bond films.
Wow.
Won
5 Oscars for films such as Out of Africa, Meryl.
God damn. It's the only thing I know about that movie.
I just can't wait to get out of Africa. Dances with Wolves, scored one of my favorite Eddie Murphy films of all time, The Golden Child, back before Eddie Murphy fell off the rails. I don't know what happened with that guy.
Kids.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Same thing's happening to Nigel. I mean, look at that beard.
Yeah, he hasn't washed in a month.
Yeah, you just sort of lose control of everything in your life.
Yeah, I could see that. And easily the best George Lucas film of all time, Howard the Duck. Remember that music from Howard the Duck?
You know what's funny is I did think this movie had, like, the music was way too good for the film.
I thought you were going to say it felt like Howard the Duck. Especially Nick Cage's character.
Yeah.
Also,
I guess it would make, if you think he's trying to sound like a duck, I guess.
Yeah.
You'd explain his
Hi.
choice.
Patrick.
It's got kind of a Pee Wee Herman thing on it.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
yeah, me too.
I'm like, why is he doing a Pee Wee Herman voice?
Why is he doing that?
Imagine that's what Francis Ford Coppola was saying every goddamn day on set.
Yep. Ratings. Surprisingly, very high rating. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. 6.8 out of 10 on 30 reviews. Not a ton of sample size there, but, you know. No. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't give it an 87%. It's an okay movie, but 87%? Holy shit. The audience score, though, 55%. Which is like, so the critics were very high on it, but the audience was not. Usually the opposite.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe just this was a Francis Ford Coppola stroke job.
Yeah, at the time, you didn't want to be like the critic who wrote a bad review for a Francis Ford Coppola movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with only 30 reviews. Like, there weren't a lot of people writing reviews about it, so it's not like it was, probably wasn't a big talked about movie. So if you're going to come out as the guy who shit talk Francis Ford Coppola,
Yeah.
could be your career.
Yeah.
I mean, should stay true. Stay true to your craft like we do over here. That's why we're so popular. Metacritic, 75%, which is also very high for Metacritic. IMDb, back to the audience, 6.4 out of 10, which, like I said, 55%, 6.4. The audience, that seems to be more, that's where I'm probably going to end up. And then the cinema score was a B+, which also tracks.
Yeah.
As we've talked about many times, like anything under like an A- is pretty tepid, not so great. Which I felt that, like as you're getting done with the movie, you're kind of like, what the hell was the point of all of that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I'm guessing that's what the audience was feeling as they were walking out of the theater, and they were like,
that mixed with this guy did The Godfather. That's what I said to myself several times while watching it.
Yeah.
How do you go from Apocalypse Now to this?
Right.
Apocalypse Now too. You mean my Huang?
Well, as we know, that probably wasn't him.
Oh yeah, that's
Doing
definitely a Nick Cage, man.
How about a Coppola quick facts?
Coppola quick facts here. There actually are a bunch, so I'll jump right in. The movie, written by the husband and wife team of Jerry Littling. I'm never going to get that name right. Lightling. I think that's right. Lightling, something like that. And Arlene Sarner began the film as a 50-page treatment that was sent to producer Paul Gurian in July of 1983, and he was intrigued by the premise, so he assisted the writers in developing the screenplay. This, of course, is loosely based on the Buddy Holly song of the same name, which there really isn't much to that Buddy Holly song. So I don't know how you really write a whole movie off of that 2-minute long song. That is, of course, a sequel song to the original Peggy Sue, which was his biggest hit. Fun fact, Peggy Sue was originally supposed to be called Cindy Lou, and was written for Buddy Holly's niece. But it was changed to Peggy Sue after co-writer Jerry Allison, who was the drummer for the Crickets, the band that backed up Buddy Holly, after his girlfriend broke up with him, and he changed the lyrics to get her back, which actually worked, and they ended up getting married. Not for long, but they got married for a while. So Peggy Sue did get married. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Buddy Holly died in a fiery plane crash, and his niece doesn't get credit for that song. It's funny that there is a real Peggy Sue that's actually lived their whole life with that song playing everywhere you go for eternity. It's kind of crazy.
And a movie.
The role of Peggy Sue was originally offered to Deborah Winger, who was cast, but she got into a bicycle accident that caused her back injury and forced her to pull out of the film. And we got Kathleen Turner, who got an Oscar nomination somehow from this film. I don't get that one either.
I think it's because she was the only thing kind of holding this movie somewhat together.
I feel like it was Francis Ford Coppola directed this. Well, give one of the principal stars an Oscar nomination. And then they were like, "Ooh, Nick Cage is doing some really weird shit." Kathleen Turner? When Deborah Winger was attached to star, she had asked Penny Marshall of Laverne and Shirley fame, who ended up becoming a huge director about this time, if she would direct the film. Marshall met with Tom Hanks and Sean Penn for the role of Crazy Charlie. But she was fired 3 weeks into pre-production by the producers, who felt that the film had gotten too big for a first-time director. That was her first thing, and then I think her next film was that Jumping Jack Flash film with Whoopi Goldberg, which ended up being kind of a hit. Production began August 19th, 1985, and was completed in late October, although it was scheduled for a May 1986 release. Coppola put the film back in production in the spring of 1986, so like right before it was supposed to come out, to shoot a new ending after realizing there weren't enough tears, like I said earlier.
Okay.
I don't know. Weird, creepy shot that we'll talk about of the like mirror perspective thing. That was what he came up with to make it more impactful. I don't know. It's a weird ending and leaves you with kind of a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
Of like
that's what he did. He added that to the ending. I wonder what the original ending of it was then, you know?
I don't know.
Maybe something a little more coherent to the plot of the movie.
Maybe she just came back and died.
Or didn't come back. She just
Yeah.
was like her going to the afterlife. Like she finds out she's in heaven the whole time or something, and she's just reliving her. I don't know.
It does get weirder and weirder as this fucking heart attack trip or whatever this is goes on.
I guess makes sense when you finally find out what happened. It's like, oh, okay, it's a fever dream or coma or whatever. And
kind of the same thing with Cage's character. Like he's way less weird and off-putting in the actual reality. Like when he shows up at the reunion, he's crazy in his commercial, but that's just a character that he's playing to sell TVs or whatever. But then in reality, he's not nearly that weird.
I mean, like I said, he's supposed to be a 17-year-old. You know, you can't judge everybody by what they were like when they were 17. They're going to be awkward and weird.
Please don't judge me by what I did when I was 17.
Right.
This is Kathleen Turner's only Oscar-nominated performance.
I'm just... Why this one? I don't get it.
Why this one? I don't know. I've watched not like a huge sample size of Kathleen Turner's performances, but like a lot of her mid to late 80s, early 90s stuff. And I will say there's better performances than this. Like she doesn't really even play a believable young version of herself. And like there's barely any makeup on her specifically, which originally I was like, is this to play up the fact that like she's the one who's making this whole reality, so she is basically just herself still? But then I looked at her makeup in the coma scene and I was like, yeah, they definitely tried to make her look older in that scene.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was 30 when they filmed this. And she's supposed to be playing somebody who's a little older than 30. Not much. But then it's like, you know, you're not really a convincing 17-year-old and you're not really a convincing 40-year-old. I guess more convincing as a 40-year-old, but the makeup's weird. Yeah. It's weird choices. It's some weird stuff with this movie.
Yeah. There's a lot of like older people. Especially in the flashbacks from the reunion. Like a lot of those people were like in their 30s, even like late 30s. Yeah. And it shows. Yeah, he's a balding 17-year-old. Okay. This is one that I stumbled upon that I have never heard before. Nicolas Cage was considered for the role of Harry in Dumb and Dumber. Could you imagine?
Wow.
Yeah.
You could?
I mean, that's
he's
Jeff
sort
Daniels,
of the
right?
straight. Yeah, he's sort of the straight guy in the buddy relationship.
Yeah, no, because then you'd have Jim Carrey and Nicolas Cage trying to do weird shit against each other. And
He would have been better as Lloyd.
Yeah,
with Jeff Daniels still
but then you'd lose Jim Carrey, who's Jim Carrey's
but as
Jim
Harry,
Carrey.
That would have been weird.
Yeah. Like he'd basically just be playing.
And totally redeem yourself.
I'd say that, or he'd just play like kind of the dumb jock version of his Best of Times character. Maybe
like his Best of Times back. I never wanted our pets' heads to fall off. My dad won't talk to me about it when his pets' heads fell off.
He's just screaming, pointing at his bicep.
God.
They're coming to get us.
I don't know if you guys saw, because I don't think anybody saw, but Kathleen Turner was actually in Dumb and Dumber 2, which I have just blacked out of memory that even exists.
Yeah, I didn't watch the
holy
prequel or
shit,
the
that
sequel.
movie was terrible.
I watched the prequel that they did. I made it 10 minutes into that, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm done."
Yeah.
So then
Yeah,
when they did the actual sequel, I was like, "I'm good. I don't need the shit on the first movie ever again."
The second movie is much better than the prequel, I will say.
I would hope.
But that's not a very high bar. So
Yeah.
In the original script, we will see her in the reunion, but then we don't see her in the flashback. But the woman who was in the wheelchair, Rosalie, at Peggy Sue's high school reunion, was a gymnast who was crippled in an accident in the flashback that we were supposed to see. Peggy Sue actually tried to take advantage of her knowledge of the future and stop that from happening, which I'm guessing she would have been successful. And then when she flashed back to the present, she would have still been in a wheelchair. So I was like,
Hey, that would have added some tears. Maybe he could have left both of those scenes in.
Yeah. What a weird, I don't know.
I totally forgot about that character.
Yeah, it's like, why is this character here? And like, it was obviously set up for something, and then you're like, oh, well, I guess there's no payoff to that. Because they made a big point to show her in the wheelchair, and like,
Yeah,
I don't know. She also used her knowledge to invent pantyhose, as we see on screen, and encouraging people to invest in Xerox, which would have been helpful for about 10 years there.
yeah.
Helen Hunt, who plays Peggy Sue and Charlie's daughter, is actually 9 years younger than her mom in the film, Kathleen Turner, and a year older than Nicolas Cage.
I thought that was the weirdest casting. I was like,
So
wait,
strange.
she looks older than Kathleen Turner.
Which they make a joke about it.
Yeah.
So I guess if you lampshade it, then it's okay.
Yeah,
she and I had the same birthday.
We're twins.
Several decades apart, but maybe she could play my younger sister in a movie or something. I don't know.
Oh, wait, Helen Hunt is shares a birthday with you? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
her birthday's the same as mine.
Yeah.
Not year.
Always makes me
obviously.
think of my birthday, you know. 'Cause
Yeah, we don't need to get
Any famous people you share your birthday with?
somebody. Yeah. Hitler. Steve Guttenberg, the Goot, was considered for the role of Charlie, which would have been
been
I think that would have worked.
Yeah.
Gutenberg was great. I don't know why Gutenberg like fell off, because I genuinely enjoyed all of Gutenberg's performances. Then he just became the guy who's in Police Academy.
Yeah, I think the style of movie he did fell off, and he couldn't
it's true.
get out of that.
Kind of raunchy slapstick comedies.
Yeah.
I guess. In his biography, The Gutenberg Bible, which is genius, Steve recounts that he spent most of his audition time questioning Francis Ford Coppola about making The Godfather. Can't imagine why he didn't get the movie. Get the role.
Fuck it, I'll just cast my nephew. He's not going to talk about The Godfather with me. It's the worst that can happen.
Doesn't give a shit about The Godfather. Grew up with it. Another big name that turned down the role of Charlie Bodell was Dennis Quaid, who I could also see in this role.
He's just kind of that guy.
Yeah.
He's,
Thankfully, he's not Randy Quaid, though.
Yeah. Who had like one famous role and then went nuts. Or I guess two.
He's got two,
roles.
dude.
Yeah.
Independence Day.
He plays a
Christmas
crazy
Vacation.
guy.
He's got some great YouTube videos, though.
He's great on Cameo.
Really good on YouTube these days.
Probably hangs out with John Voight now.
Yep. Yeah, him and Kid Rock and
The My Pillow guy.
John
Kanye.
Voight and the My Pillow guy. They're going to save America.
Don't forget Kanye.
Yay, thank you.
Nicolas Cage, finally we'll get into Nick's performance here. Nicolas Cage based his character's voice on Pokey from The Gumby Show. It's like, what the fuck, dude? Why? Why? Francis Ford Coppola and the producers hated the voice, and Cage was nearly fired, but somehow Nick convinced Coppola that he was making a good choice. Like, if you can convince Francis Ford Coppola that you're making a great acting choice by doing a Pokey voice, like, this dude should have run for president.
I can't imagine that wouldn't have worked if he hadn't been his nephew.
Yes.
Like any other actor trying that.
Dennis Quaid shows up.
Yeah, Steve
Hi, I'm
Guttenberg.
gonna talk like this the whole movie.
Yeah. You know, I wonder if he even told him, I'm trying to sound like Pokey, you know, from the Gumby, that show I watched when I was a kid, remember? Or if he was just like, why are you doing the voice?
I'd never watched that show. What the hell are you talking about? Cage has later said that he never wanted to play this role, but was asked multiple times by his uncle to do this movie. And he said he agreed to take the part only if he could do it in an over-the-top manner. It's a Coppola movie, dude.
Oh, my God.
Like, even, I mean, so that was, let's go back to what, Valley Girl was what, 1983?
Yeah.
So 3 years into his acting career, he told Francis Ford Coppola, go fuck yourself unless I can do Pokey the whole goddamn movie.
I mean, it's his uncle, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I guess now that knowing that they were approaching him to try and get him to play makes
That's
a little
his
more
story,
sense.
though.
Yeah, I guess. Because yeah, I still feel like they could have got anybody else to do it. Like, I don't know. Like, it couldn't have been that hard to find somebody who wanted to work with Francis Ford Coppola and wouldn't do a stupid voice.
Like, Cage was very early on in his career and
Yeah.
was mostly playing like side characters and stuff. He wasn't like starring in much at this point. I mean, he had a few starring roles, obviously, but not anything on par with like Raising Arizona or something like that at this point. So
I just love the idea of his uncle watching Pig and being like, why couldn't he have given me that?
as we've seen, I think Nick had a very like weird interpretation of acting up until the early 90s. And
he still does, but he
I think he
reins
still
it in.
does, but he reins it in. Yeah.
He reins it in when he understands, when he has, I think when he has a clear picture of what that character is or who that character is, I think he is able to kind of rein in that abstract version of himself, which is how you get Pig and Raising Arizona. And
When he was younger, it was like, I'm trying to do something new. And like you said, he's trying to do avant-garde stuff with acting, trying to reinvent the wheel as a new, young, up-and-coming actor.
He's trying to bring silent film to modern day film is what it felt like sometimes, like where he's, I think that's what, to his credit, I think that's where his physicality has been honed so well, is that he would always over exaggerate. But then how do you deliver dialogue with that mentality? Sometimes it's off the fucking rails.
To be fair, this was the first of 2 times that he played a cartoon character come to life, and the second time worked really well. Amazing. And Raising Arizona as Woody Woodpecker or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
But that was physical. It wasn't vocal, which helped.
Yes.
He didn't put on
That's true.
Yeah, he didn't put on the voice. It was just
I'd say also Vampire's Kiss, he was kind of like a cartoon character in that, or at least an overly exaggerated.
Yeah, I think that was more of his interpretation of his father.
I think that was also the silent film thing, especially when he turns into the vampire.
Yeah. And again, his physicality in that film was incredible.
Yeah.
Masterpiece. I will fight anybody who lampoons that movie.
Not everybody could turn the words boohoo into a memorable moment.
In a 2018 interview with David Marchese on the website Vulture, Kathleen Turner said that she was taken aback on the set of Peggy Sue Got Married when she first heard the voice that Nicolas Cage chose to use while playing her love interest. But she didn't think it was her job to direct another actor's performance. She instead talked to the movie's director, Francis Ford Coppola, and asked if he had approved Cage's choice. When Coppola failed to intervene, Turner said that she made it work by choosing to interact with Cage's character in a way that explained her character's eventual disillusionment with the past.
Okay.
I think it ties into, like, she's having a heart attack. Spoilers. And this is all in her head. So I feel like this is her wacky funhouse mirror version of her past.
Right. Yeah.
And, like, I don't think he actually, his character, the actual Charlie, talked like this the whole time and was so over the top. But maybe he was. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kathleen Turner stated that Francis Ford Coppola was contractually obligated to finish the film on time or lose final cut privilege. We've talked about final cut privilege a lot on this show because of Paul Schrader and some of his choices with films and having final cut taken away from him. We've seen the results of that with Dying in the Light, and then him
dark.
just accidentally leaking dark on the dark web after re-editing the movie or having someone else re-edit it. We didn't really talk about that much, but it's just funny that I have a specific vision of this. You go make it, though.
Mm-hmm. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. And then I can blame you. Accordingly, the cast and crew worked 20-hour days, 6 days a week to deliver the movie to the studio on time, but he went back and fucking re-edited it anyway in the spring, so I guess he had already delivered the film, so they gave him final cut, and then he was like, I think we need a new ending. I don't know. He seems like a really hard person to work with.
Yeah.
It's probably why his career kind of hasn't been as big since the 80s.
Yeah, and the movies he's been making have been terrible. Hopefully this film that he's putting out, I think it's coming out this year, the Metropolis or Megapolis or whatever the hell it's called. Hopefully that is kind of his return to form, and then he can kind of go out with a bang rather than a whimper, because, like, I don't think he's made anything good since... I would say the best movie he's made since the 80s was Godfather Part 3. If that says anything.
Damn.
This last quick fact, I was kind of taken aback by this because we have done 40 some odd films on this show, and I have never heard a crossword more than, like, he's kind of hard to work with because he's very opinionated. But I've never heard anything bad about Nick throughout all of the stuff that we've done so far. There's been a few things where like he walked off set because he didn't get paid. But you know, he's working with Paul Schrader, so of course
Schrader, so
makes sense.
You can't hold that against him. Plus,
But
it's
this one-
his pay.
This one is like, this one really struck me because of how out of character it seems. But we'll get to why it seems out of character. But Kathleen Turner has spoke numerous times about the difficulty of working with co-star Nicolas Cage. In her 2008 memoir, she wrote, quote, "He caused so many problems. He was arrested twice for drunk driving, and I think once for stealing a dog." He'd come across a chihuahua he liked and stuck it in his jacket.
I mean, yeah, I can
I can see
buy
that part. On the last night of filming, he came into my trailer after he'd clearly been heavily drinking. He fell on his knees and asked if I could ever forgive him. I said, "Not right now. I have a scene to shoot. Excuse me," and just walked out. Nicolas didn't manage to kill the film, but he didn't add a lot to it either. For years, whenever I saw him, he'd apologize for his behavior, and I'd say, "Look, I'm way over it, but I haven't pursued the idea of working with him again." That's pretty hardcore. Like, I've never heard anything like that about Nick's performances, his actions on set, or him just, like getting arrested for drunk driving twice and stealing a dog.
Yeah. I mean,
stealing a dog feels more in character.
I feel like the Coen brothers were pretty critical of him, but in a very politically correct way, not to piss him off or the Coppolas. Mm-hmm. So it seems like that time frame in his life, he was a bit of a challenging person to get along with.
I also feel like
with the drinking.
I also feel like it was potentially him trying to get under Kathleen Turner's skin because he's playing the husband that she hates at this point.
I could see that being the case.
I could see that because we've seen him be, huge into this method acting stuff, especially in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like we talked about on Wild at Heart, pre-David Lynch, he kind of, thought that he had to be this method actor in everything that he did, and that somehow Wild at Heart, of all movies, brought him out of that and made him decide not to do that as much anymore. Though he did do it again on Leaving Las Vegas, of course.
Yeah, but he says it was only that one scene. He said that
the drinking.
Drinking, that was the only time that he went method in that movie. And and I think that might have been the final nail in the coffin about being method all the time, because I remember him talking, and I feel like recently he was talking about that film again and be like, yeah, that was miserable. That was awful. That was an awful experience.
Can't imagine why.
I would never do that again.
Yeah, he says he never drinks on
set
films anymore. Which is kind of crazy if you look back at his performance in Joe. Like, that drunk performance was so good. I literally thought he was drunk in that scene.
Oh yeah, he nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when he's,
Kathleen Turner
drinking a beer and Mom and Dad.
Yeah. Kathleen Turner also criticized Cage for his decision to wear false teeth and to adopt a nasally fry for his character. Nasal fry, sorry. Cage says he based it on Pokey, of course. And during an interview in 2018, Turner commented on Cage's nasal voice that it was tough not to say, "Cut it out." But it wasn't my job to say to another actor what he should or shouldn't do. So I went with Francis. I asked him, "You approve this choice?" It was very touchy. Nicolas Cage was very difficult on set, but the director allowed what Nicolas wanted to do for his role, so I wasn't in a position to do much except play with what I'd been given. If anything, Cage's portrayal only further illustrated my character's disillusionment with with the past. The way I saw it, he was that asshole.
Maybe that's why they gave her a nod.
That's what I was going to say.
Work with that.
She had to work with that the whole time. Okay, so we talked about all of that stuff, but here is the asterisk to this whole thing. In 2008, in response to Turner's claims that Nick had driven drunk and stolen a Chihuahua, he sued for defamation and won.
Whoa.
In exchange, he received a public apology from Turner, admission from her publisher that the claims were false and defamatory, and a pledge that Turner and the publisher would make a substantial donation to charity of Nick's choice, I'm guessing.
Chihuahua rehab, Chihuahua adoption service.
Yeah. It was
Wow,
that
that's crazy.
ferret that he adopted. And,
Right, or a zebra that he bought.
yeah.
That's how I got
What's
my
her name?
Raven Hoogan.
So that's how I got Hoogan. Kathleen
Yeah, I mean, I
Turner.
guess because she said he got arrested for stealing a chihuahua. Like,
Yeah, she
that's
said
pretty
that he got
easy to
arrested
prove if
for-
that happened or not. You know,
Yeah.
And along with the drunk
So-
driving. I mean,
Yeah.
there'd be.
Well, I mean,
well, maybe
it might not get
back
arrested.
then,
You can still say somebody drunk drove and nothing happened. But saying someone got arrested for stealing a chihuahua, there'd be a record of that somewhere if that happened. So,
Yeah, if she wouldn't have said arrested, I think she would have been okay. But the fact that,
Or she would have said
obviously-
allegedly.
yeah.
right,
Or
And maybe
she
there
might
was-
have been in the car with him when he was driving drunk. I mean,
it could be. Or if there was, was there nobody else to corroborate it? So at that point, it's just her saying he drove drunk 30 years
Yeah.
in the past or something, and
yeah.
his publicist was
That's
like,
interesting that he
"Fuck
felt
off."
that passionate about her making those claims that he actually took legal action. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, I mean, in 2008, Nick had a lot more money than Kathleen Turner did.
Did he?
If we look about it, no, that was right before the fall off. That was right before Spirit of Vengeance. You know?
Yeah, but he was.
Yeah,
spending
that was right
money
after
like,
Ghost Rider, man. He got that
Yeah.
Ghost Rider money.
Yeah, but he was spending that money like he was printing it himself.
that was like, wasn't that the year that National Treasure 2 came out?
I think so.
He was like, I'm going to use this National Treasure money. Get that shit stricken
yeah, like
from the
right
record.
there, like right as it came out, or right after, yeah, or it came out the year before. I can't remember.
Yeah, that could have been a reason why. Like maybe that was
True.
coming out in the news because his trajectory was up again because of National Treasure, and maybe there was some Kathleen Turner news or her saying that got dug up and then was running or making the rounds in interviews and stuff, and
Yeah.
might have been costing him jobs or who knows.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. If you think about it in terms of like, like I said, like we've done 40 some odd films and I've never heard a bad word about Nick like that.
Yeah,
That lends more credence to the fact that she just made it up to sell her book. I don't know, but
Right, yeah.
I could see him just stuffing a chihuahua in his coat and walking
Yeah.
off. I could see that happening, and I could see him driving
Yeah.
while under the influence.
Yeah,
But I don't think he got arrested for any of that.
yeah, and there can also be stories that over time have become embellished in her own memory because, our memories are not the greatest.
yeah.
So,
And I also feel like there's definitely possibly something to the fact that he was like just purposely going out of his way to piss her off because he
Yeah,
was
that's
playing a
true.
character that was like her ex-husband.
That's true.
I could totally see that. He inspired people like Jared Leto to send dog poop
God
to
damn it, we gotta talk about
cast
that guy
members
again.
and stuff. Nick was the early version of that, doing that shit in the 80s.
Yeah. Daniel
Thankfully, he
Day-Lewis,
stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Took his acting cues from it. Call me Lincoln.
Call me Lincoln. And finally, this one I just thought was funny. Charlie begs Peggy to marry him, saying he doesn't know what the future might bring. He might even lose an arm. And in the very next film he did, Moonstruck, he lost his hand. Funny coincidence. Yeah.
It's funny.
Let's break this bitch down. Act 1. Let's set some stuff up.
Our film begins, as you'd expect, with the song Peggy Sue Got Married by Buddy Holly and the Crickets, which is the way less sexy but still cute cousin to the original 1957 Peggy Sue. Over a title sequence that looks like it was made in an 80s version of Macromedia Flash. I bet only one person in our audience is going to get that joke.
Anybody old enough to remember when Adobe didn't own everything?
We see Nick, a.k.a. Crazy Charlie, on a TV dressed like Elvis, doing a goofy voice that somehow gets goofier as the film goes on, mashing fortune cookies and playing the xylophone while hawking television and stereo equipment as his daughter, played by Helen Hunt, giggles on. I'm guessing she's probably laughing because she's confused how this guy could possibly be her dad, seeing as how he's so wacky and he's like only 6 months older than her. We see Kathleen Turner's character Peggy Sue Bodell putting on makeup in a mirror in a creepy shot where her reflection doesn't follow her movements at all. Her reflection starts smearing lipstick all over her face while little people dance behind her as the bizarre circus music swells to a deafening volume. Wait, no, sorry, that's the wrong movie. That's different.
That's
Quick
like
fact.
a weird fever dream between Twin Peaks and Wild at Hearts.
Quick fact. This shot was done with a double, mimicking Peggy's movements since there were no fancy way to hide the camera using CGI back in 1986. I
feel like there's better ways of doing it.
I do too. Because when I saw that, I was like, am I having a stroke? Like, is my brain not processing this?
It's foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Wait, for my life? I'll take it. I'll take it. I already speak like I have a stroke. Anyways.
You speak great. You just don't read well.
I don't read too good.
You're a great talker. You want to be.
What I want to be. All right. It's clear immediately that Peggy is over Charlie's bullshit and wants her daughter to turn off the television since she doesn't trust Charlie anymore. Peggy gets dressed in her Mylar blanket, looking like Chuck McGill before the fire. Spoilers. Sorry, Nigel. For her 25th high school reunion. And Peggy laments that Charlie left her for some bimbo named Janet, who probably has a real head for knowing.
You have such a head for knowing.
Beth, Peggy's daughter, calls her mom a very hip chick who looks like she just stepped out of a Life magazine. Then Peggy says she doesn't want to go because everyone is going to ask where Crazy Charlie is in a kind of vaguely racist accent.
Hey, where's Crazy Charlie?
I wasn't really sure what was going on with that.
Crazy Charlie.
I couldn't tell if that was just her like trying not to cough while she speaks, and she's got that smoker's voice.
I think she was trying to do his like goofy way of talking, but
Yeah.
but it came off as like, ooh,
Slightly racist. It's okay. In the 80s, there wasn't a such thing as racism.
No.
We cut to Buchanan High School, where we meet a bunch of young people in old people makeup. That still is somehow more convincing than that scene at the end of Deathly Hallows, where we see middle-aged Harry Potter and his pals, but not by much, really. We see a doofus and Sean Archer's frigid wife, somehow dressed stupider than Peggy Sue, who remarked that Peggy and Beth looked just like a commercial that was popular in the 80s. I'm guessing it's that one where the mom and daughter are walking down the beach and the daughter turns to her mom and says, "Mom, do you douche?" I think it had to be that soap commercial since Peggy and Beth look like they're the same age for some fucking weird reason.
Mom, do you douche?
Yes, people that were born after the year 2000. That was a real commercial.
I remember how taken aback everybody was.
America
by that
was?
commercial.
What?
Whoa! What?
Gotta ask you something real personal. Do you douche? I sure do.
The other day, I saw a commercial where somebody was like talking about how sperm tastes like bleach. So I don't know.
What? It does?
Don't act like you don't know, Nigel. They'll awkwardly walk back onto the set of Valley Girl, where we hear a band playing "Johnny, Are You Queer?" Okay, again, this is a throwback to a movie.
It did kind of look like the Valley Girl set.
It did. Maybe they just rolled right back in there.
Which we said
Could
the
have been
Valley
the
Girl
same
set
one.
looked like the Back to the Future
Yeah,
high
look at
school.
Back
So
to the
they all
Future,
just go to the same high school. Which that came out a year before this movie, so maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that came out at the same time, and there was actually a line apparently that was cut where she said, "I've come back from the future."
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
You can actually see her saying it, but
When she's talking to Richard about being from the future.
Yeah, I think so. And then they went in and ADR'd her saying, I've come back. I don't remember what it was, but like
that's the way. Yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
Like, I'm from the future or something like that.
I have come here from the future.
So
Yeah.
really-
It's just,
And
I
that
don't
movie
know.
was so much more popular than this.
Yeah, I feel like that's the pitch for this movie was Back to the Future, but worse.
As we know, though, this was actually started before Back to the Future because they
Yeah, it was like, what, 83?
Yeah, started the script in 83.
Next, we see a photo of Peggy and Charlie revealing they were prom king and queen in 1960, and a picture of Peggy twirling a baton covering the whole wall of the dance. I guess based on everything we find out about her life and middle age, I think it's definitely safe to say that she peaked in high school.
Charlie, too.
Yeah. I don't know. He's on TV.
Yeah,
he's famous.
He owns the appliance store.
He owns his family's appliance store, yeah.
That his dad gave him.
Yeah. Still chasing bimbos around the store.
We see another girl reenacting a photo of her getting felt up by Nick Cage or something. I don't know what that was. And we see that she dresses like Stevie Nicks and has become a raging yuppie, showing off her gold Rolex. Then we cut to a guy who is smoking, literally, because it's party time. Party. Why? Because he's gotta. Yeah, that's right. We see a post once bitten pre-Earth girls are easy Jim Carrey, who bumps into Carol, the yuppie, and they make a plan to do coke later or something. I don't know.
It's kind of crazy if you think about like Jim Carrey's career, where he had starred in a movie as the main character, and then he ended up going into bit parts after that, and then he ended up on TV, and then he became big off of TV and did Ace Ventura.
I'm trying to remember him talking. I saw an interview about him talking about that, but yeah, I think that movie didn't land as he thought it would land, and so then he kind of had to figure it out. Yeah, it didn't. Then he had to kind of figure it out, and that's when he started doing all this other stuff. And then in Living Color, I think is what kind of really put him back out there. And
yeah, I feel like Jim Carrey's shtick works better on a sketch comedy show. Mm-hmm. And then you get your name out there and you get famous for that. And then
honestly, he's kind of
finding roles that'll work
in this movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Very annoying.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what his problem was, as he was still trying to kind of figure out how to play that comedic character that he's so good at.
Yeah.
And you could definitely tell it was not working.
Yeah.
Not working here, but God, you can see the early stages of like, there's a lot of callbacks to things that he does later on amazingly.
Yeah, you could see like the beginning workings of the character that, or like the comedy style that he ended up becoming famous for. And thank God he was not a huge part of this film. Because
imagine if he was Charlie.
Oh, that would have been awesome, actually. Anyways, some dork named Richard says hello to Peggy Sue, and she's like weirdly over the top excited to see him again, which I'm sure has nothing to do with the fact that it turns out this dude is a billionaire after high school,
and she's trying to become single again.
Yeah,
yeah.
Let's say she is single, but I guess they're still together.
They're
not divorced yet.
Yeah, I think they're like separated. Yeah.
Richard asks where Crazy Charlie is, and Peggy says he won't be there since they're getting a divorce. And I guess that was part of their divorce hearings, is they divided who gets to go to the reunion. I don't know. That was weird. I thought that was a weird thing. Anyways, but they're interrupted by one of those That Guy from That Thing actors who tries to sell Richard insurance.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy who looks exactly the same in high school as he did at the reunion.
As he does at the reunion.
Didn't even try with his character.
They're like, there's not enough makeup. We're out of money. It costs too much to de-age you.
Spent it all on Jim Carrey's crew cut.
Francis spent it bailing Nick out of fucking jail from stealing a chihuahua.
Paying off the cops for that drunk driving charge. They didn't end up in jail.
All jokes, Mr. Cage.
Yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Hey, proven not to have happened.
Exactly.
In a court of law.
Yeah. In
or civil court.
Carol welcomes Peggy Sue to the single scene. She says she should think of men like houses and just keep trading upward. Okay.
Fuck you, boomers. That's why 2/3 of us can't afford houses right now.
We can. We just default on them eventually and then be homeless. But we could be in a house for like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost done. So. About 6 months left.
And then squatters' rights kick in.
Yeah.
Carol says Peggy and Charlie seem to have a great marriage, but Peggy says they got married too young, and it's not so bad since she has 2 great kids and owns her own bakery. kind of have a feeling it used to be like a 5-star restaurant. And Crazy Charlie now lives in the woods with a pig. I kind of feel like that's where the story's headed.
It'd be awesome.
He comes back to the reunion. She wakes up from the coma and he's like, I don't fuck my pig.
I don't fuck my pig.
I know you've been telling people I've been fucking Janet. I don't fuck my pig.
Fuck Janet, she's a bit of a pig. But.
This
she also says if she.
This is the prequel. Like Peggy Sue's the wife that died. She had a heart condition and she died, and then Charlie changed the name to Rob and wouldn't live off the grid.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. She also says if she knew what she knows now back in high school, she'd do a lot of things differently. I think this is some sort of foreshadowing, which is good because I'm not smart enough to fucking follow the themes or plot line of this film. So beat me over the head with fucking foreshadowing and literally tell me what's going on. This movie's
It'd be nice if the movie actually seemed to have a theme or something, some message you should take from it.
Yeah.
Instead of just a general sense of confusion and unease.
Don't go to your high school reunions. That's what I take away.
Life used to be great, but it's not. But it is. I don't understand. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Some guy yells at Richard for inventing computers or something, and a woman rolls up on Peggy Sue. Sorry, that's just a funny way to put that. And a woman rolls up on Peggy Sue and Carol in a wheelchair. She seems to remember every detail about Peggy Sue in high school. She must have like that Stephen Hawking's disease, which kind of makes me wonder if she too enjoys watching naked little people stand on stools while trying to solve complex math equations. Allegedly.
Who doesn't, dude? Who doesn't?
Quick fact, I know we touched on this before, but in case you skipped or you're only watching this, I figure we'll go over it again. But this character, the gal in the wheelchair, was mostly cut from the flashback portion of the film. We were supposed to find out that she became paralyzed in a cheerleading accident, but Peggy Sue stops it from happening in the alternative reality, and we would see that play out later on, I guess. But like I said, it got cut.
I just wonder, like, if in the edit he was like, "Oh, well, we're undoing everything that Peggy did in that flashback at the end, so maybe we shouldn't show her saving her from becoming paralyzed."
Yeah, I have some questions about the ending and how it then, like, we'll get to it. But yeah, I have a question on how the fuck he wrapped it up, and I feel like it got more muddied now that I know that he went back and reshot the ending. Next, we cut to Jim Carrey and Carol doing a line of coke where he says getting access to pure pharmaceutical grade cocaine is the best part about being a dentist, which made me realize I'm definitely going to the wrong dentist because I've never once been offered cocaine.
Screw Novocaine. I want that
cocaine just sitting around.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd rather have them numb me up with coke than Novocaine because I always end up biting my fucking lips.
Just rub it on your gums.
Yeah, just rub it on my gums. Drill away, doctor, and then proceed with my root canal. We see Peggy Sue ogling a picture of some guy named Michael Fitzsimmons, and it's clear that she's definitely rubbed one or two out to this guy since high school. We also learned that this guy is way too cool to come to the reunion. It was pretty hot to picture until her rubbing it out, until I realized it's the same dude who played Benny in The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. And then I was not as turned on. I still finished, but it wasn't as enjoyable. Then Carol interrupts that moment by saying she still has a thing for her first boyfriend, who's played by Jim Carrey, and recalls him saying, "Whatever Walt wants, Walter gets." Just let that sink in there. You'd say that back in high school, and then they all giggle like they just did some of that amazing coke we saw being snorted a few minutes ago. That was so weird. This whole intro was fucking weird. Anyways,
establish all of their characters and all the things they might possibly have said way back in high school, so that we can have a callback to it later.
Yeah, it was just like, what are you doing? You're cramming. Yeah, anyways. The beginning of this is so jarring. Peggy Sue asked Richard, the billionaire, to dance to get him out of a weird interview or something with that snarky bitch. Pretty sure that was God damn it. Pretty sure that was Rita Skeeter's mom. I'm sorry, I just rewatched all the Harry Potter films if you can't tell by all these references.
What was the deal with that chick? Like, I barely mentioned it throughout the breakdown, but like there was just one girl like doing interviews with everybody, and she was just a complete bitch to everyone.
Yeah.
And then we see her in high school, and she's a complete bitch to everyone back then too.
I think that's just that old trope that there's always that snarky, bitchy
There's always
teenage
the bitch
chick
bully.
who's bullying the
Maybe Peggy Sue
people.
caused something horrible to happen to her, and they cut that out. She's the one that
Would
got
have been funny if she was
instead.
paralyzed.
Yeah. Save the one chick, and the accident happens to the other chick. And
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I just think it is that stupid trope that there's always like the bully in high school, and that chick was the one that they.
yeah,
But
she
they
gets her
chose to be the
comeuppance
bully.
because she dumps a pen all over her.
Yeah, she squirts on her. Squirts a pen. Anyways, Richard complains that nobody used to pay him any attention in high school since he was a nerd. Look at nerds. But now everyone wants a piece of him since he's rich and successful. Now, this is a good lesson here. I think this is a good lesson, kids. This is how people used to get back at their high school classmates rather than loading up a fucking AR-15 and taking it to school. Okay? This is a more productive way.
It's a long game. It's harder, but
Yeah. More
it
fulfilling.
benefits the world.
It's way more fulfilling to become rich and successful.
I don't know if it's more fulfilling, but
I mean, it's better than spending the rest of your life getting butt fucked in prison.
well, most of them don't make it to prison.
Yeah,
I was trying to be optimistic here, gentlemen. He tells Peggy Sue that he appreciated her being nice to him in high school and that he would have slipped her the first "don't come to school tomorrow" no, if it hadn't been the 60s. we suddenly cut to a balloon rising to the rafters and reveal the greatest actor since Pokey and the Gumby Show, Crazy Charlie. He catches Peggy Sue's eye, and she is pissed to see her soon-to-be ex has decided to attend his own high school reunion. Fucking prick.
what a
What a
bastard!
piece of shit.
What an asshole. How dare he? Everyone is overjoyed to see him in his leisure suit with his fake tan, slick back blonde hair, and he makes eyes at Peggy Sue. Some guy says Charlie's daughter is a real doll, and then he says, "Why I oughta," and then they laugh like it's the funniest thing that they've ever heard. What the fuck do you guys think
Happens
he
like
meant by
8
that?
times in this movie.
Like,
Too.
was that in a movie that had come out, like just come out in the
Yeah.
60s or something?
I saw it like when I was researching. It was I feel it's like a Jackie Gleason thing or something
Yeah, I
like
was gonna
that.
say,
Yeah,
like,
that's what I probably had.
And it was like real funny if you were from the time, but
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
stupid to Peggy because she's not from the time. So every time she hears it, she doesn't laugh. Everybody else does. But then it's at the high school reunion. Which, I don't know.
Yeah,
They're just
it's
calling
like
back to their better days.
Charlie is visibly upset that his wife wants nothing to do with him, so he sulks away, and some guy in tight pants hops on stage to whip out the fakest sounding announcer voice I've ever heard to announce the prom king and queen of the reunion.
The reunion committee has given this a lot of thought and decided on 2 people who best represent the spirit of Buchanan High's class of 60.
They name Richard the Billionaire King, since, having tons of money is all it takes to be on the top in our society. And rather than call everybody a cocksucker, Richard uses the platform to thank all the assholes who treated him like shit in high school. Once again,
That would have been the perfect moment to have his.
yeah.
he's taking the high
You guys
road.
all thought I sucked.
Yeah. Thanks for the crown, cocksuckers.
He's doing a backhanded version of it.
Yeah.
They're all too stupid to get that he's still insulting him because them bullying
true.
him led to him being a nerd and
Being a
and
nerd.
being
he was a
successful. in
nerd
life.
already, but
Yeah,
then it
but-
motivated him to become rich.
Yeah,
He invented a thing that reads books to blind people. Like a
voice
microphone.
Audiobooks? Oh my God, he invented audiobooks.
Libro FM.
Then Goofy announcer guy names Peggy Sue queen, and she's so overwhelmed by the honor that she has a heart attack and passes out while her daughter says, "Mom, you can't die. I'm mad about you." It's like, you guys really think any of our fan will understand these references?
Oh my god.
This is making me realize how fucking old we are.
It's a slightly dated reference.
Our version of Why I Oughta.
Why I oughta. I guess I don't. Yeah.
Remember that show, Mad About You?
Remember that show from the 90s?
Wasn't even one of the good ones.
Nope.
I mean, Friends.
Hated that show.
I think everybody did.
It made me hate Helen Hunt because I actually liked her before that. And Paul Reiser. Ugh.
Some crazy strobe lights go off as Peggy lays on the ground, and next we see Gilda the Good Witch, who tells
Glinda.
her... What? Glinda. Oh, yeah.
Glinda.
That's exactly
I did
what
that.
as soon as I wrote it, I was like, he's going to say this wrong.
Yeah, I think I said the same thing. In Wild at Heart.
Yep.
Some crazy strobe lights go off as Peggy lays on the ground. And next we see Glinda, the Good Witch, who tells her, Charlie has already forgiven you, Peggy Sue. Wait, no, that's a different movie. Again. Peggy wakes up in 1960 at a blood drive where she sees Carol, who's decidedly less yuppie than when we saw her at the reunion. And Charlie, who has even more Elvis-looking hair than in his commercial. He does his Dracula impression wearing fake teeth, and he tells her he wants to suck her blood by saying, blood, 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 blood. I want to suck your blood. I also want to suck your Twinkie. Which I guess we probably should have mentioned that Peggy Sue is a hermaphrodite, so it's not as weird as you think.
Or he was like, what if he was thinking like, oh man, if my uncle ever does a Dracula movie, I'm a shoo-in. It's going to be great.
He tried.
Yeah.
He also wanted to play Sonny's kid in Godfather 3, which would have been great to watch Sofia Coppola and Nick Cage both fuck up a Godfather movie.
She asks him if she's dead, and before he answers, he turns into Pee Wee Herman and says, no, you are the undead. And he kisses her passionately, stirring up butterflies she'd long since forgotten in her Twinkie. Then Charlie goes full on pokey with his high, weird voice and eats Peggy Sue's Twinkie while a nurse throws him out of the gym. Just fucking weird. Just awful start to a movie. Peggy's understandably freaked out seeing her classmates no longer in obvious old people makeup anymore, and is confused how she ended up back in 1960.
Now they're just not wearing makeup.
Yeah.
But now they're like 30-year-olds playing 17-year-olds, and it's even more confusing.
Don't you have fake liver spots anymore?
Yeah, some of that makeup was like, wow, you like. I thought they're supposed to be in their 40s, not their fucking 60s.
Right? Yeah, I think like Charlie has like all gray hair, or it's like I thought you said it was blonde, but I thought it was supposed to be gray. Like I don't know.
Charlie's supposed to be my age.
Yeah, he's not supposed to be in his 90s.
Yeah.
Jesus,
they made him look older than Peggy Sue's dad in the 60s.
Yeah, they did actually. Carol and Maddie drive Peggy Sue to her childhood home through 1960, complete with old cars, signs, and of course, the song Tequila playing just to hammer the point home.
The Pee Wee Herman voice? Is that why? Oh, wait, that wasn't until like the year after this.
Yeah.
Or no, same year. That movie came out same year this one did. 86, I think that's when Pee Wee's Big Adventure came out.
Something like that, yeah.
Peggy enters her old home to find her mom young again, which is a shock to her. So she gives her mom a big hug and heads up to her teenage bedroom. I guess looking the exact same age as your mom runs in the family because Peggy's mom also looks way too young. She's considerably overwhelmed and asks, what is going on, to herself. Her little sister Nancy, who's played by Nick's cousin, Sofia Coppola, is weirded out by Peggy Sue being happy to see her. Sophia shows off the wooden nasally acting she made famous in The Godfather 3 by asking Peggy Sue why she's suddenly being nice to her. And Peggy says, I want us to be closer. I have too many unresolved relationships in my life. I think it's fair to say that Sophia probably took some notes from her cousin and also took inspiration from Pokey for her role.
Teenagers are weird, and you're the weirdest.
She's got a bit of that too. little bit high pitch.
Quick fact.
Why are you happy to see me?
That's actually a better reading than what she gave. A better performance. Quick fact. Sofia Coppola, director Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, plays Peggy Sue's little sister. Sophia would later direct Kathleen Turner in The Virgin Suicides in 1999.
I'm so happy that she became a director.
Yes, and I
didn't
bet Kathleen
continue in
Turner
acting.
agrees with you. She's like, you're much. Hold on, let me do this. You're a much better director than actor.
She turned into Paul Schrader.
Oh, they sound similar. They sound so. I couldn't help. It was just a side note, a side tangent. I could not. Every time she talked in this film, I could not help but picture her character in King of the Hill. Because she plays Buck Strickland's wife. And that's all I can fucking picture. Oh, anyways. Then Peggy Sue suggests they play Monopoly because, you know, when you're having a crazy hallucination that you've been transported back in time to resolve mistakes of the past, you know, the first thing I would want to do is play a game of Monopoly. You know, it only takes fucking hours instead of spending, you know, more time with my mom or my dad, because it sounds like they all had horrible deaths, or my sister, who apparently had a horrible death too, which they just never address.
What?
Well, we see that her mom and dad are alive in the like little moment where she wakes up from the coma. There's like pictures of the people who came to visit her while she was in the hospital.
Really? I didn't track that. I think
you can't really tell because they look exactly the fucking same, except their hair's gray. But you see her mom and then you see her dad.
I think I was too distracted by Nick's appearance,
Yeah,
and her shitty old people makeup. Everything else in that room,
which is
was
way
just a
different
blur.
from her makeup in
Way
the
different.
reunion.
Way different.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even go back and look at what they shot. They just like
Because they were
made her
shot
old.
6 months later, and they were like, "Yeah, everybody will have forgotten the beginning of
Yeah,
the movie."
exactly.
Remember the girl in the wheelchair? Neither do I.
But there's a
move
girl in
on.
a wheelchair. No. Anyways, we cut back to Peggy Sue and Nancy watching TV, and Peggy tells her sister not to eat any of the red M&Ms. Quick fact. While visiting 1960, Peggy Sue warns her sister about eating red M&Ms. Red M&Ms were discontinued in 1976 when red dye number 2 was named as a suspected carcinogen. M&Ms never used red number 2 and weren't bad for you, but they removed the red M&Ms from production anyway to avoid scaring consumers who had heard about the bad red dye on the news. They quietly introduced them back to the public in like a decade later, like 10 years or so later.
Sometime in the 80s. Came back. I
Good for
remember it
Billy
was
West.
like a kind of a big announcement that red M&Ms were coming back. But I feel like they said something about it not having red dye number 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that when Billy West got the job as the red M&M?
That would have been like
Probably.
early 90s, I think.
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that's actually probably a good point. That's probably when they started using him, and then the yellow.
It was like the
M&Ms.
mascot for
That's the
M&M.
mascots for M&Ms. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think the green one's the sexiest.
I want to fuck this M&M.
Then Peggy says, "Drink? I'm having one," and raids her dad's liquor closet where she chugs whiskey like she's about to ask a guy working on her fence to murder her wife. Yeah, that's Color Out of Space and Grand Isle reference for all y'all that haven't seen those two films.
It's hard to keep up.
What a tonal shift it would be.
It already is kind of a weird shift. Like
Just shooting bottles off of the fence. Just drinking PBR, and then it's
it is just weird that she's just like, I need a drink. Like,
yeah. That was
was
so
she supposed to be an
strange.
alcoholic in her future life? I don't know if we were supposed to
Maybe.
get that.
Yeah. We don't see her drinking.
You
She
don't see her
doesn't drink
drinking
at the reunion.
No.
We don't see her drinking at home. You think if she was an alcoholic, she'd be drinking ahead of time.
Yeah, it just seems weird. Like,
Pre-gaming
it's
for
a
the
weird
reunion.
I guess it's supposed to be comedy. Yeah, I need a drink or whatever, but it's just that's a weird way
Or
to cope.
commentary on that time. Like the
There's
60s,
a lot of
everybody
these
was
little
drinking.
moments, though, throughout the movie that are just kind of like, why?
Yeah.
What? Is
Yeah.
it just to keep you feeling like it's surreal and weird? I don't get it.
Maybe it was meant to keep you wondering, is this real? Is this fake? Like, what, is she dead? Is she alive? Is she
She's
really
been back in the 60s for like 3 hours and is just chugging her dad's whiskey. Like, it's so strange.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah. Speaking of her dad, he bursts into the house and asks them, what is that? What is out on the street? He reveals that he bought a new car, and Peggy drunkenly laughs at how stupid her dad is for buying an Edsel, which I've never heard of that car. Since she
went out of business.
Yeah, obviously that's why she's laughing. Also because she's an unappreciative asshole.
It's a beautiful car. Like, fuck off.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Piss off, Peggy Sue, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
She's really thinking, if I could go back in time, I'd laugh at the time my dad bought a car. Because they went out of business.
My dad surprised us with a brand new fucking car. What a cunt.
I acted all happy at the time, but I'd rather go back and tell him how stupid it is.
Stupid he is.
You're a dumbass, Dad.
What, you couldn't afford an Impala?
And drink all his booze.
Peggy stumbles inside, chugs some more whiskey as her dad tries to ground her, and 40-something-year-old Peggy is rude as all hell to her parents. Like, are we supposed to be rooting for her? Like, right? Like, she's supposed to be the character that we're cheering for, right?
Yeah.
At this point, no. Not at all.
Yeah. She's not a very likable character.
No. At any point. I don't like her at all through the whole movie.
No.
I like Nick Cage's character way more.
Yeah.
And he's the asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, Peggy's mom tucks her into bed to sleep off her bender. But rather than wake back up in 1985 with Marty McFly, she wakes back up in 1960.
I did like that, though. Our dad was basically just like, go deal with her daughter. Like, take care of her fucking lush. Like, she takes after you.
She's a lightweight like you.
I mean, I'm going to beat her if I go up there, so you better. 60s.
Why I oughta.
How about I put a cigarette out on your face?
Act 2, The Conflict.
Peggy apologizes to her dad for being a drunken bitch and dunking all over the surprise reveal of a new car he must have been working for years to accomplish. And then Peggy says that her mom and dad are the best parents a girl could ever have. I hate that. Their delivery of that line is so terrible in that scene.
You know, Mom and Dad, you are the best parents a girl could ever have.
You too.
You mean it's Oscar worthy?
Huh?
I think you mean it's Oscar worthy.
Yeah. Then she asks her mom to sit down for breakfast, and mom is shocked since usually after breakfast, her mom has to thanklessly clean every square inch of the house and sob for a few hours while thinking about the joyless existence that is being a housewife in 1960. She just seems miserable this whole movie.
Yeah.
Wife's work is never done.
Hey, it's the illustrious life of being married to a haberdasher. Right? Her dad
Can we
sells hats.
sound any more older?
Working at a haberdashery.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I just love that word. It's one of my favorite words.
I could tell.
Yeah, it's a great word. Very seldom used these days.
Yeah.
Apparently was because of John F. Kennedy, because Kennedy didn't wear a hat and it became out of style. Should have worn a helmet.
Right.
God.
We hear a goofy horn and see that Charlie has come to pick Peggy Sue up for school. He calls out to her in a voice more ridiculous than his Deadfall character by saying, "Baby." And she again starts to remember why she fell for this big-toothed, goofy-voiced weirdo in the first place. His car. It was always just because of that blue Chevy. Which, quick fact, the blue 1958 Chevy Impala convertible that Nicolas Cage drives was actually given away in a sweepstakes tied to the opening of the film. Somebody is still driving that 58 Chevy.
Damn.
We should track it down. Figure out who's got it. Do a follow up.
It's a beautiful car. It's really nice. Especially so that's a 1958. This is 1960. That means that somehow he bought that car, probably brand new, with his job as a TV salesman.
Right. Well, I think he said he's part owner at that point. Then his dad gives him part ownership
at the end.
Yeah.
But that goes back to he comes from money. His dad owns that record appliance shop, whatever the fuck it is.
Appliance store.
Back then, it cost like $38 in a Snickers bar to buy a car and a house.
True. That car probably did cost like $3,000 back then.
You could buy a giant house if you were a haberdasher and a brand new car.
How many more times can you say haberdasher throughout the rest of the episode?
That's not just favorite word. See,
every time her dad shows up, which I guess is never for the rest of the movie because I don't think he shows up much more of it,
except for when he's posing with that giant moose, the gigantic moose head later on.
I don't even remember that part.
Charlie tries to give her a kiss, and she says she has a headache, which is probably something he'll hear a lot once they're married.
It felt like that was like the tried excuse she's used, so she just threw it out there.
I have a headache. Headache. Sorry, Kathleen Turner. He backs out of the driveway at 90 miles an hour for some reason, and then says he agrees with her about the two of them seeing other people. A weird beginning to his character here. Also reminiscent of Deadfall. Fucking fucker.
You're just picking her up for some fun time family fun.
Then he tells her not to start crying again and strokes her hair before telling her he'll probably be a famous musician within 3 years, so they should bang other people to comparison shop in the meantime. I'll probably be a big musician, Dottie.
Dottie!
You should see other people.
I'm listening to reason.
You mean my Huang? She says they should just break up now and happily hops out of the car. And then Charlie chases after her, saying they should go to prom first and they shouldn't upset their parents by breaking up before graduation. He was bluffing. He just wanted to get a rise out of her. You can tell because he never actually wanted to break up.
Yeah.
In class, Peggy Sue happily sings America, My Country, 'Tis of Thee, while everyone else is confused as to why she's stoked about singing this song and why they're not singing the Pledge of Allegiance instead.
Yeah.
Was that a thing? Patriot. Was it
I don't know. The Pledge of Allegiance I know wasn't a big thing until the Cold War, but I thought it was a few years before. Maybe not. Maybe it didn't become more widespread until later. And it was introduced in the 50s, I think. But I was
going to say, this is 1960, so...
But maybe this was more common back then. I don't know.
Some
anachronism lost to time.
It's weird in general to just get up and sing a song in the middle of class, if you think about it. But
yeah,
we all did it. I don't know if anybody does it anymore. I don't think they do.
I don't think they do. I think we stopped in high school, too. I don't remember doing it in high school.
I don't think people do it in high school in general.
No, we did. My school did. But
did you?
That's because of where you grew up, dude.
I grew up in a way more hillbilly area, and we didn't sing the Pledge of Allegiance. Peggy fails a test that she didn't know she had to study for, and then tells a teacher named Mr. Snellgrove that she'll never have the slightest use for algebra. And after Carol, the yuppie girl, claps her hands, Mr. Snellgrove asks, "Who said that?" Who said that? It's a weird one. I feel like somebody must have said something. No, I don't. Next, we see the guy Peggy said she always wanted to bang back at the reunion, Michael Fitzsimmons, saying that Ernest Hemingway was a hack and Peggy gets hotter than Georgia asphalt when he makes eyes at her. Walter, who's Jim Carrey, if you remember, and Charlie, talk about Charlie having to work on poker night since his dad is making Charlie work at the electronics store. Did high school kids have poker night?
60s kids did, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. These kids did a lot of weird shit for being teenagers.
You think like older people are going to have like Pokemon nights?
Oh my God, I already
like
do.
Zoomers are going to have Pokemon nights or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's just me and myself, but I still play Pokemon cards. I'm undefeated.
Just painted my penis up
it's
as
probably
Pikachu.
Pokemon, Magic. It's probably all going to be played. I mean, it's a card game, so I'm sure we played it like retirement homes.
Yeah, I could see that. Magic the Gathering at the fucking retirement home.
Mm-hmm.
They're all watching The Office on repeat.
We got Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! On one screen, The Office on the other.
They all laugh about Peggy telling off the algebra teacher, and things get weird as Walter points a banana at someone, and the announcer guy from earlier says, "Why I oughta." Recurring joke that just not funny at all. It's funny to everyone except Peggy Sue because she's not from the time anymore.
Right, I guess.
But it's also funny to everyone at the reunion except for her.
I was going to say, that does confuse me because if it was such a popular thing, just because she's back in time doesn't mean that that still wouldn't have been culturally, or that would have been part of her cultural influence growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just like we still
maybe
have,
she
like,
didn't think it was funny
jokes.
back then too.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did seem kind of like a bitch back then.
Yep.
But it was like the equivalent of like all those stupid Jim Carrey jokes from the 90s.
Or I guess it'd be like for me, it'd be like equivalent of people going, "What's up?" That was really big when I was in high school.
But
and
it's
I always thought it was
still
dumb as
funny.
hell.
That shit's still funny.
I don't know.
You're teleported back to early mid 2000s, and everybody's going, "What's up?" You'd be like,
and laughing their asses off, and you're
like it's the funniest fucking thing in the world.
So what I'm getting is Nigel was a bitch back in high school. That's like a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I married my high school girlfriend.
You got married too young.
You got
two kids you love, but you'd gladly trade them off to fuck Michael Fitzsimmons.
Right. Like go back in time and spend several days before even thinking about your kids once. That's one of my questions I wrote. It's like, is she even going to think about them?
Yeah, she does, because she talks about her kids.
She does eventually, but it takes a long time.
It takes a while to give a shit about her children again.
True. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Peggy eyes dark brooding too good for these doofuses Fitzsimmons, who is reading a book on a bench nearby. Peggy then spots Richard, the rich guy. Richie Rich. That's probably how they named him. Studying alone, and she congratulates him on winning a math contest. He's very confused since no girl has ever spoken to him. And then the insurance salesman guy from the reunion calls Richard a four-eyed worm. Peggy Sue tells the guy to get lost. You know, he calls him a four-eyed worm because Richard remarked that he called him a four-eyed worm when they were in high school at the reunion. See, like every single moment that happens at the reunion has to happen in the past because that's how these movies work. You see. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it makes sense because it's all in her head.
Yeah,
so, but
it's just these are the last synapses of her brain firing, remembering everything that just happened at that reunion.
Mm-hmm.
She asks Richard to meet her after school while Walter and Charlie talk about her hooking up with Mr. Square Root. Why is she talking to him? Nice little moment there where Nick says, dun, 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 or whatever. Dun, dun, dun. The goofy moment where, like, I didn't even know Nick Cage and Jim Carrey were in anything ever together until, like, because this movie was on when I was, like, really little, and I definitely didn't recognize Jim Carrey.
No.
But somehow Jim Carrey and Nick Cage doing wacky shit together is really unfunny for some reason. Which you would think it would be the opposite, but no.
They don't have good chemistry.
Takes a special kind of filmmaking, I guess,
Yeah.
to accomplish that.
Charlie says Richard is a nice guy. So this kind of sets up a thing where we kind of see that Charlie's actually, he's a good guy at heart. So he wasn't like talking about what a dweeb this Richard guy is at that point. He was already saying like, oh, he's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't fuck him, but anyway, Charlie says Richard is a nice guy, and Jim Carrey does the signature throw-up face that made him famous.
He perfected that at a young age, and it hasn't changed.
It's the same thing, yeah.
It's
a great moment in Dumb and Dumber when he whips that out when he realizes that Harry's with his girl.
Yeah. And in Ace Ventura when he realizes that Finkel is Reinhorn?
Yeah. Or in The Mask when he... No.
Or in, what is it?
Liar,
number 23.
Yeah.
In Truman Show when he finds
the Truman Show, when he realizes his dad's still alive.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Or like in the promo for Hedgehog 3.
We cut to twirling a baton practice where Peggy once again
There wasn't even like
Michael
an instructor
Fitzsimmons.
there or a coach or anything. They were just out fucking around.
That's what
in
you did
uniform
back
too
then.
for some reason.
Yeah.
I think it was like just cheerleading practice, but like as self-taught.
What do you practice?
I guess.
I guess.
Probably because the teachers look the same age as the students. Confuse people. She once again ogles Michael Fitzsimmons as he's like running on the track, which is the exact same picture of him that was up on the wall as well. She's twirling a baton. Just take the pictures all at the same time. Fuck it.
Yep.
She's interrupted by a Muppet yelling, "Baby!" Oh, wait, that's Charlie again. He does sound like a Muppet. Yeah.
That sounds like Patrick Mahomes.
That's true. He tells her, "I love it when you twirl your baton." Always works on the ladies. He doubles back on their conversation from earlier since he was bluffing about seeing other people and decides his 3-part plan of being a famous singer or whatever while smashing Random Strange for a while is totally unworkable. He says he can't stand the thought of Peggy with other dudes, and she says it must make him feel rejected, worthless, miserable, which I'm sure is how she felt when Charlie cheated on her with that bimbo who has a head for knowing.
Mm-hmm. Janet.
And when he says, "Yeah," she says, "Good," and runs off. I like that moment. Good. Fuck you then. Then he pops a Mentos or something and closes his eyes.
Sucks on a wowie whistle.
I think it was supposed to be like he's taking like an antacid or something, and he's like actually
stressed out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's what we're supposed to get from that. Like Peggy's giving him all sorts of mixed signals here.
Yeah.
Peggy meets up with Richard in the physics class and tells him about traveling back in time, since she assumes he's the only one smart enough to figure out what the hell is going on. After a bunch of nerdy science talk, he says that time is like a burrito in that it can fold over itself, touching other parts. Which I guess is a good analogy.
I don't know. It just made me want Mexican food.
Mm-hmm.
I'd make a joke, but I can't. At first, he thinks she's making fun of him by saying she's from the future, but eventually realizes she's serious when she tells him details about his own life that she couldn't possibly know. I think it was the teaching old blind people.
He has a blind grandpa, so he develops technology that
audiobooks.
Reads. Yeah, he develops audiobooks for his blind grandpa.
Pretty sure audiobooks existed already. Pretty sure they had books on vinyl.
Yeah. Yep. They record people speaking, so yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes just the idea's there, but nobody has it. So, or the text there, but nobody has the idea. You know, maybe they didn't. Maybe books on tape weren't a thing yet.
Maybe it's like a real time thing where it's like, you know, doing the Stephen Hawking voice.
Fuck. Yeah, you know what? Because they do have those. They do have those like that tech that like you run it along Braille, or you could even run it along words. I think, or like there was like
it reads it out.
Yeah,
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe they did do that.
That makes sense. She tells Richards she thinks she had a heart attack at the reunion and is dead, and he suggests jumping in front of a fire truck to make sure. Why not?
Which I don't know about you guys, but when that happened, when that fire truck was coming, the audio got super loud for me. I had to turn down the fucking volume.
You were just hoping that she was going to die too, right?
I was like, can this movie be over?
Right. Yeah. Sadly,
checking the timestamp already at that point.
Yeah, I did that.
I did actually.
I did that, and it was the exact midpoint of the movie, which is the second time that's happened to me. I can't remember what other movie it happened on, but it was another one like where I was just like,
it's the one you watched on Roku with commercials.
Oh, that was Weatherman.
Yeah.
That was actually a good movie.
Not to Nigel.
And it was Crackle, not Roku.
Oh, yeah, Crackle. My bad. Sorry, Roku.
How could you forget? Stunning endorsement for Crackle.
You guys remember Crackle?
Neither do I.
She briefly decides to give it a shot, but ultimately decides she doesn't want to die. I just want, like, what would have happened if she would have been hit there?
We'll never know.
She'd wake up at a blood drive when she was in middle school and she'd go even further back into the past.
She wakes up in the bed next to Bill Murray.
It's like Charlie still sounds the same even though he's in middle school. At home, we see that Peggy's mom is selling some jewelry, to help pay bills. Since she can't get a job, since she's from the 60s.
Yeah.
But there was something I read where it was like there was going to be more to that. Like her husband was, like his business was failing because the craze of hats had gone away. Say it, Nigel.
Yep, the haberdashery.
Yep.
Things weren't going so great at the haberdashery. Which I guess would also explain why it would add some weight to when Charlie asks about it when he comes over. He's like, "How things going at the hat shop or whatever?"
Mm-hmm. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just bought a new car.
I wonder if it had to do with that, or if we were going to learn that her mom ended up leaving her dad at some point. And that was her squirreling away some money to get out of there. But
yeah, trying to get out of
we'll never know.
Abusive relationship.
Why I oughta.
Hilarious.
Then he puts her in the hospital.
To the moon.
See, it's funny because he
To the
doesn't
blood
actually
drive.
do it. But enough people did it that it was common. But he doesn't do it. He just says he's going to do it.
Exactly.
Comedy gold.
Comedy gold.
Hilarious.
Domestic violence.
Ripe for comedy. All the way out, like in the 90s, they were still throwing jokes. I mean, Roseanne was like full of those jokes.
Yeah, I guess.
And racist jokes, of course.
And you had like Homer
Roseanne,
choking Bart.
Homer
was
choking
really
Bart,
funny.
yeah.
Which they don't do anymore because people can't differentiate something so
because
over
people
the
are
top.
dumb and the Simpsons are terrible now. So
Allegedly.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I haven't watched in like 20 years.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't.
no
think
one
I've
has.
watched
I don't think. Yeah.
Somebody is.
The phone rings, and when Peggy Sue answers, she hears the voice of her long-dead grandma and freaks out. She runs upstairs, and when her mom asks what the hell is the matter with her, she says she dreamed grandma died. And her mom comforts her and then asks about her and Charlie's sex life.
You mean his Wayne?
She says his teeth are too big, and when her mom presses her, she says he bit her lips. Sorry. All right, imagine that other part. For like 20 minutes, I was imagining him biting her lips. Sorry.
I didn't even catch that he was wearing fake teeth in this movie.
Yeah, he had fake teeth the whole time. Peggy says she's confused about a lot of things now, and Charlie is one of them. Her mom asks if Pokey is pressuring her to do things that she doesn't want to do, and then asks if Peggy knows what a penis is and to stay away from it.
Stay away
know what
from
a
it.
penis is.
I like that. Yeah, so I guess there's an abandoned subplot of her mom being unhappy with her marriage or her dad or whatever.
True. Yeah.
Could have been.
The aforementioned penis pulls up in his blue Impala in front of the house and then prays to a picture of, I had to look this up, 50s heartthrob Fabian Forte that Charlie has glued to his sun visor. He says, "You're the best. Make her love me, okay? Feed me, charge me." Then he says, "Go get her, Tiger," and heads inside to find Peggy's dad standing in front of a ridiculously huge moose head that internet sleuths have mathematically determined would not fit through any opening in Peggy Sue's house.
God bless you, internet. God bless you.
Yeah. Who's sitting around like, let's see. All right, mathematically, let's see if you shifted it through the front door.
Heroes. That's who.
The internet. Charlie asks how things are at the haberdashery, since that used to be a thing. And Dad asks if Peggy Sue is acting strange to him, while Charlie comically eats a Rice Krispie treat in the cagiest possible manner.
Nancy, please. She seems to be a little bit.
I think he was like, this would be something my character would do, and then he's like, well, fuck, I got dentures in.
Yeah, I got fake teeth. I can't.
I can't get him around this thing. Jesus.
Can you imagine trying to eat rice, the stickiest of foods with fake teeth?
Yeah, when he went to go take a bite of that, I was like, oof, bad choice. And then
Gonna
you
lose
can see
those
the
teeth.
regret in his eyes.
Nick Cage doing weird stuff with food.
Yep, I almost made a badge last season, and then we had like no occurrences of it.
Yeah.
All last year.
Because then we'd have to go back and do it all over again for all the other movies.
Yeah, let's redo every single episode. Get back. Peggy's dad says Peggy is reckless, and Nancy says she's almost a juvenile delinquent. Sorry, I have to say it like her. She's almost a juvenile delinquent. Which prompts her dad to toss her out of the room before Nancy says, "Why I oughta." Which makes Charlie laugh like he just visited the dentist. Charlie says he likes Peggy's reckless nature since she's not like the other girls at school, and goofily explains that he plans to marry her.
In the past 2 years, I've been pleased to note that you and Mrs. Kilcher have provided your sacred trust with upbringing the woman that I plan to take off your hands.
Peggy's dad tells Charlie to cheer up his daughter, but not to bite her lips again. I mean, to restrain himself. His teeth are big, you see. They head to a makeout party full of all the people from the reunion, minus their old people makeup. Well, except for Joan Allen, who I'm pretty sure looked like an old woman when she was 12.
She looks so much older with that makeup on.
How does she always look so old? Like she's she looks like 60 years old in Face Off, and she's like 20 something.
It's the hair. Like she needs longer hair to help shape her face and make it more youthful. It's that short hair that just because she's got really sharp features.
Yeah, and those grainy glasses weren't doing her any favors in this movie.
Glasses, it's like, man, you're not helping yourself here.
She kind of looks like a librarian, like just the uptight old young woman librarian. Suddenly, the party turns into a concert where we see Charlie, Walter, and a couple other nameless extras who make up a doo-wop band called The Definitions.
And I think the announcer who brought him up on stage was the guy who announced the prom queen or the anniversary queen king.
That's
queen.
what he does. It's that's what he does for a living when he's not working at McDonald's or whatever the fuck he actually does.
Or it's just because he was emceeing at the reunion, so her synapses throw him into the flashback.
MC guy. Yeah. I bet you never thought you'd see Jim Carrey and Nicolas Cage sing a cappella while dressed in tinfoil sport jackets, did you?
Check that off the list. Nick Cage and Jim Carrey doing a doo-wop song.
Yeah, so weird. Totally forgot that Jim Carrey was even in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie sings his ass off while doing eyebrow raises and showing off his pearly white horse teeth, while all the girls swoon like crazy, and the guys wish that he'd bite their Twinkies. Peggy Sue again remembers how she fell for this gangly doofus in the first place by saying, "He really is kind of cute, isn't he?" Anyways, that goes on for like 20 minutes while Jim Carrey does a goofy-ass scene from a different movie the whole time. And reminds us why he didn't become a movie star until he started playing the most over-the-top characters imaginable. After Charlie says, "Bye-bye," at the end of the song, Peggy Sue asks Charlie what he thinks of Richard, and he says he thinks he's a nice guy while making "I want to make Peggy Goo eyes" at her.
God damn it.
Let's make some Peggy Goo. She says Richard is trying to help her in physics, and Charlie says,
"Hey, who needs physics when we've got chemistry?"
It's a good line.
It is a good line. Yeah, he's quite charming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that he's pretty charming when he wants to be. And he says, "Yeah, I know." In the goofy as all hell voice that he chose to do. He says, "You're the perfect girl for me, Dottie." As in, is, was, and always will be, in another distinctly Cage delivery. Very, yeah. Only he would make those choices.
Is it Dottie?
I said Dottie, yeah.
Okay, I was like, wait, is that intentional?
Yes. You're the perfect girl for me, Dottie. Then he says dancing was invented as a ritual to promote fertility. And when he gets a stiffy, Peggy pulls him into her, and he makes a noise and opens his mouth wide enough to eat a Rice Krispie treat. Which, like, I think he was trying to be sexy, but like this is 1960, and he didn't expect Peggy to be like, "Yeah, fuck me right here, goofy asshole. Mm-hmm. Let's do this." Then things get real awkward. We cut to Charlie and Peggy Sue making out in his Impala next to some water. Which, like, where was that water? Is that like a?
It's at the old reservoir.
Did they go by the ocean or something?
No, they went to the old reservoir.
This whole movie is filmed in Santa Rosa and Petaluma, I believe. So I don't know. Just felt like some dock somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of it was filmed in LA, like probably pickups and stuff, but I don't think this was. I think this was all filmed in Petaluma. Anyways, things get all sorts of sexy. Wait, did I say sexy? I meant awkward. Really awkward. Peggy Sue says she wants to make love, and Charlie says, "What? You mean sex?" Then he laughs and says, "Intercourse. You want to have intercourse?" Charlie tries to restrain himself like Peggy's dad told him to, but she insists even after he says she was the one who said that they should wait until they get married. She asks if Lucky Chucky wants to come out, and he says, "Who?" Then she says, "You know, your love machine, your throbbing thrill hammer, your thing." And he says, "You mean my whang?" Oh my God. He asks her what the hell is going on, and she says she made a mistake trying to grab Lucky Chucky. He takes her home where she apologizes, and he says, "Save it, woman, humiliator," and then speeds off.
Oh, I I wish you would have. I wish you would have been like, "What? I thought you could eat a peach for hours."
You always said that.
You always said that.
You could eat my little Peggy Peach for hours. I guess Peggy didn't want to head home until her panties dried out, so she heads to a place called the Donut Hole. Which, never mind, I won't say it. That's how you save your virginity back in those days. Donut Hole.
She was looking for a different type of glaze.
Inside the hole, she finds Michael Fitzsimmons drinking coffee, reading a book, and thinks to herself, "Don't mind if I do." Fitz bitches about Hemingway some more and yearns to be like Jack Kerouac, because of course he does. She heads out with him on his motorcycle to a soundstage somewhere with a fake-ass looking backdrop.
My God. So bad. It was so bad.
What was that? Like, why? Why
I wonder
there?
if that was
just go outside.
Like part of the reshoots, because it was so bad. I mean, it was, even with the shitty quality of that movie, it was fucking obvious how terrible that backdrop was.
I mean, Francis Ford Coppola said he wanted more tears, and I jerked some tears. Wait, did I say tears? Sorry.
I did use a lot of Kleenex during that scene.
They smoke weed, and Peggy Sue gets all dewy-eyed about how deep and brooding Michael is, since he wants to leave this town behind and write for a living. Oh, and he says he's gonna check out of this bourgeoisie motel, push myself away from the dinner table, and say, "No more Jell-O for me, Mom."
Is that what Crispin Glover's character was yelling?
Yeah, it sounds like somebody would say. The dance. No more Jell-O for me, Mom. This is about the time that Nigel was hoping that the Zodiac Killer would pop out of the bushes and kill these two idiots, so we didn't have to watch the rest of the fucking movie.
Yeah, timelines line up.
Yeah, it's true.
California in the 60s.
That's his MO.
Killing Lover's Lane,
Yeah, killed a lot of people on sound stages.
Oh, man.
He asks Peggy if she's going to marry Charlie and graze around like the other sheep for the rest of her life. And she says, "No, I already did that. I want to be a dancer." Then she dances around in her reefer madness before collapsing on a blanket Fitz laid out on the ground. And she asks if Fitzsimmons Persimmons want to come out to play. Lucky Chucky for Simpson. He then does a bunch of god-awful deaf poetry or whatever Mike Myers did in So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yeah.
Then makes sweet, sweet love to her, which I'm guessing, since they're in high school, probably lasted 2 minutes. But as Flight of the Conchords once so eloquently put it, 2 minutes in heaven is better than 1 minute in heaven. Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
The next morning, Peggy Sue heads to Bodell's appliance store, where she sees Charlie selling classical records to an old man. Like Stravinsky? How would Charlie even know about Stravinsky? I mean, I guess he's a musician, so
yeah,
maybe he is deeper than we give him credit.
Although I think he says he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
I think he's just saying that to not seem like
a
dork.
Yeah, yeah. That's how I took it.
Okay.
I mean, because as it progresses, you really learn how passionate he is about music, and so I was like, okay, he does actually understand. Like,
seems
he does
like a guy who would
different types of
appreciate
music,
Stravinsky,
classical music, and he just didn't want to seem like a nerd to her.
Yeah, surprised that Cage didn't whip out some stuff about classic silent films or something.
I'm surprised he didn't just start singing opera.
Sing opera, yeah.
Yeah.
So that they use this a lot in the Max Schreck films. He and Peggy Sue head into a listening booth. Remember those? Those were cool, man. I wish those were still around. The stores aren't around anymore, so I guess it makes sense that listening booths wouldn't.
Physical media is no longer around.
Yeah. Peggy tries to apologize, but Charlie tells her, hush. Hush, baby. Hush. Then he says she must get the same urges that guys do, so it's all good that she tried to get Lucky Chucky out of his cage. Sorry. She says she's a grown woman with a lifetime of experience, and Charlie says, yeah, girls mature faster than guys. He says he put on the brakes the night before because he loves her and knows everything will work out because she's his baby. If he only knew that Michael Fitzsimmons was still sloshing around inside of his baby.
God damn it. The origins of the crocodile.
Act 3. It's about time to wrap this thing up.
We cut to Peggy Sue and Richard talking about stealing inventions that haven't been made yet before Peggy gets the bright idea to run into a store where she finds out that pantyhose haven't been invented. She runs off to invent them so they can make their first fortune together, but she's interrupted by her friends who ask why she didn't tell them about riding Michael Fitzsimmons' motorcycle. Then they talk about genital stimulation with the mouth. Wonder if they ever talked about cum tasting like bleach, like in Valley Girl. She says Michael is a true poet and that Charlie is free to go out with whoever he wants to. Carol's taken aback since she thought Peggy and Charlie were going to get married, and Maddie gets upset because she'd always pictured they'd all live on the same street and barbecue together for the rest of their lives, and that Michael doesn't look like the barbecue type. Later that night, Charlie uses a ladder to creepily sneak into Peggy Sue's window while doing some Nosferatu shadow puppets with his hands. See, he did get to put it in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely Nick Cage choice, not anything to do.
100%.
He lifts a pillow like he's about to smother Peggy Sue, but stops himself and throws the pillow. What? Just like, what a turn.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess so. It's like it's so she's thinking this is it. The version of him would murder her for sleeping, but then he decides not to. And then she decides to still be with him. This version of it, it's probably just best not to think about that one too much.
I wonder if that was an improv too.
Yeah, but I mean, you didn't have to keep it in.
Cage was about to smother her.
It's a big turn of the character. If it was an improv.
This is for making me steal that chihuahua. Stupid bitch. Yeah, occasionally I have a drink or two. What of it?
Why I oughta.
Why I
oughta. She wakes up shocked to find this clown in her bedroom, and he whispers, "Let's go down to the basement." So, yeah, he's definitely going to kill her. In the basement, he asks what's going on with that scuzzball Michael Fitzsimmons, and she says she just felt like going for a ride on his motorcycle. He grabs her and says, "Then it's true, damn it!" while shaking her like a baby you just wish would shut up.
Oh, my God. It just keeps getting worse.
I don't know if I can do his voice very well.
That was perfect. That was amazing.
Charlie says he had a miserable time at his doo-wop show or whatever, and he wants to know if they're broken up. He says, "You're going to blow it, Peggy Sue. No one treats Charlie Bodell like this."
That felt like a Pee-wee moment, too. You're going to blow it, Dottie.
Oh, God. She asks why he talks about himself in the third person and why everything has to be an argument. So he says, I've got the hair, I've got the teeth, I've got the eyes, and look outside because I've got the car too. I'm the lead singer. I'm the man. Why are you arguing with me? And then she says, don't you take that tone of voice with me.
Just stop it.
God. Can you imagine trying to do this scene? Like this scene of all
very emotional scene.
He's just doing this god-awful voice everybody hated.
The hair, Peggy. Why are you arguing with me?
Maybe she did deserve an Oscar for not laughing at every take that she had to do every single line he says.
Yeah, it's true.
Through tears, she said that it's over and that he went off with a bimbo named Janet. So he says, "What the hell? What are you talking about? Who is Janet?" She tells him that she wants him to be happy and to go off and finish college rather than wait around for a big break as a singer that will never happen. And he says,
"You don't know Zip. You think I'm gonna spend the rest of my life selling appliances, chasing women around the store like my father?"
Ah, yeah, he's exactly like his father. I wonder if his father sounds like
more
that.
over the top.
He's devastated that she doesn't love him anymore, and he vows to be just as big as his idol, Fabian Forte.
Feed me. Give me power. You're the man. I don't remember how that happened, but
you go, Tiger.
Go get him, Tiger.
Go get him, Tiger. At a primarily black beatnik dance hall, Peggy and Michael sit down in a booth where Michael says he's leaving town 10 minutes after graduation, and Peggy's excited to join this rebel without a cause into a new life. Until he tells her that he wants to start a polygamous cult in Utah. You can raise chickens.
It's almost as big of a turn as Charlie about to fucking kill Peggy Sue with a pillow.
Almost. Peggy quickly realizes that she's made a mistake since she'd rather be dead than live in Utah. I mean, polygamy is one thing, but Utah? Fuck that. He says they should let their passionate fire burn together one more time. And she says that he's going to be a terrific writer since he can whip out great lines like that. Coincidentally, Charlie just so happens to be sitting in with the band at this club, and when she hears him singing with the band, she seems to see a side of him that she never knew existed, and for the 14th time in this movie decides maybe she should just give him another shot. So we
can't help but love him.
Singing R&B. It's the key to my heart.
Is it because it wasn't like sappy love song or something like that?
Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe it's like his other stuff was he's just doing doo-wop music, which was kind of the popular thing. That's all the rage. And this is like,
yeah,
you know, he's singing from heart now because she's broke up with him, and he's, yeah.
I guess if you think about it, he was like basically in the equivalent of like a boy band, and then she sees him singing
doing
with
some
like
more mature music. Yeah. Right. I mean, she likes the artistic, I guess, because she's drawn to Michael Fitzsimmons, and then it turns out he's just bullshit. So, you know, and then that Charlie's actually had the soul the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he, like, I guess in her reality, he must have never expressed it or never showed that side of himself.
Or he did, and she forgot about it, and then their life happened, and then he cheated on her and everything went. But she's remembering who he used to be and why she liked him in the first place. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think he ever showed that side to her because spoiler alert, she talks about how they got married because she got pregnant at 18.
Yeah,
and I don't think she ever got to see that actual side of him. And
so does that side of him not exist then in reality?
I think it does, but you know, their lives changed the moment that she got pregnant. It was no longer about for her. It was no longer about his dreams and his future.
Yeah,
and so,
but at the same time, all of this is in her head. So she's inventing him being in this group.
Yeah, so I didn't take it as her inventing it. I think it was her just remembering it, or
yeah, maybe,
you know,
could be, yeah.
it may have never gone down like this, but maybe he had that spark and she knew about it at the time, and then their life sort of, you have kids and your life changes track, and to happen right out of high school would basically end your life and any plans you had for it, you have to adjust, and if you're not ready for it, you end up with their relationship and their lives.
Yeah.
Anyway, we see Charlie then meet with an agent of some sort, where the agent tells him he won't be taking Charlie on as a client, which makes Charlie wide open mouth laugh like a maniac and then slump down in his chair.
Sorry, Charlie. It? I don't think so, it happened, but not with you. It's
also another really weird Cage moment. He's staring at the table by the end of his laugh. Mm-hmm. It's really weird.
And she saw that, right? I'm trying to remember.
No,
she didn't.
They left.
She saw him singing.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is also
tells
weird.
her about it.
Did this happen in the reality? Because it's all in her head. So if she wasn't there to see it, just like she wasn't there to see him doing Nosferatu fingers outside of her house, then why are we seeing it?
Don't ask questions, Nighty.
That's just what she pictures Charlie would do. That's the kind of guy he is.
The next morning, Peggy Sue stands outside Charlie's house, and when she sees him walking his dog, she admits to seeing him perform the night before. She says she wrote him a song that she's sure will be a hit, and he apologizes for creeping into her window and trying to smother her with a pillow and all that stuff.
My bad.
He asks if the world will still like him if he stops being Mr. Excitement, since there's more to life than music, and she says yes. At school, Peggy Sue sprays ink on that bitch who was interviewing everyone at the reunion. I should mention there's a whole subplot of Rita Skeeter being a cunt to everyone at the school. This was sort of just glossed over, by the way, and it's basically pointless. Lost in the edit, who knows?
Yeah.
Peggy Sue sees Richard, and she tells him that she's come to say goodbye, since she's going to throw herself in front of a fire truck after all. She says that she misses her reality and doesn't belong here anymore, but Richard suggests she change her destiny and marry him instead. Then she says, "No, Peggy Sue got married. Case closed. I don't want to marry anyone." And Peggy storms out, but Charlie stops her by saying he reworked She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah by the Beatles to She Loves You, Oh, 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 which is just as horrible sounding as you imagine.
She loves you, ooh, ooh, ooh. You love me, ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, I'm good.
I gotta go.
It's sort of like, she loves you, ooh, ooh,
oh, that's
ooh.
right. Ooh.
Just the way he does it is so terrible.
Which explains why he never made it in music.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think that previous scene, though, kind of went by fast when she's talking to Richard, but I think that's the crux of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's the only time it says the title in there, but it's basically like she's finally realized that what she really wants is none of this. She wants her own life that she never got a chance to live. But at the same time, she talks about missing her kids. This is the first scene. That's the first scene that she even addresses the fact that she has kids. Plural. I didn't know she even had a son. I don't think he's ever mentioned it at that point. Is he? Like, it was
his name is dropped in the reunion, and then dropped at this point, I think, in the film.
Yeah. She's like, we saw her daughter, but she's got a daughter and a son, and she misses them. But then it's like, if she doesn't get married, she never has them. So I don't quite get how we're supposed to sympathize with her, because it's like
there's this message of kids out of existence.
Yeah,
right
like there's this message of self-actualization and not having your entire life be defined by, you married this person or you married this person or you had these kids and whatnot, and she misses them. But then it's like you just completely want to get rid of all of it. And I get, are we supposed to root for her? Are we like,
exactly.
You go, girl. It's weird.
It's how I felt the whole time, especially at the end. I'm just like, we're supposed to be rooting for this chick this whole time, or what? I don't really get it. I think the reason that the son isn't there is because this is the 25th anniversary reunion. He would have been, because she gets pregnant on her birthday.
Yep.
In real reality, and then that kid would have been like 24, so he would have been off and living his life, probably post college or whatever.
I guess, yeah.
And Helen Hunt's character is supposed to be much younger, 17, 18.
Peggy Sue tells Charlie that she's leaving to go see her grandparents, and he's upset since he made reservations for her birthday and canceled his tickets to go see Fabian. Peggy Sue takes a bus. Again, she's a bitch. Trying to do right by her.
Yeah. I mean, he's pulling out all the stops. I mean, he was kind of a dick at the beginning, but then quickly realized that he wasn't actually a dick. It was more like he was just projecting onto her.
Well, we also find out that it was her idea to see other people originally. Like, that's what he talks about. Right?
No, I think it was his idea, but he was bluffing. And
that's right, because she cried about it, and the next day he brought it up. Okay, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
She blows him off to go visit her grandpa and grandma. She takes a bus to visit her grandma, and grandpa and her grandparents seem to have some weird supernatural ability to see the future and believe in past lives, I guess. Peggy Sue tells them that she's from the future, and they're totally on board with that insanity since they're both just thinking some of her imagination anyway, and the last neurons firing in her dying brain.
I think what we were supposed to get from that is like she is dying in reality, like she's going through this major health event, and these are like the ghosts of her grandparents trying to help her get back to
makes sense
out of the coma
from the
or
afterlife, and because they would be the only people in this story that are actually dead.
And all the lodge members.
Yeah, and they're all super old, so they'd be dead too.
Yeah,
they're all super old in the 60s. So yeah. So then the door just opens on its own, and Grandma says Peggy is browsing through time. And Peggy says she misses her kids that she's not planning to make in this reality, and that she named her daughter after her grandma. So she does. It's
very muddled.
Yeah.
I think there was supposed to be more of a point that we're not getting. I don't know.
The next day, Grandpa decides to take Peggy Sue to his Freemason Lodge meeting or something. Whatever. It's obviously based on some secret society, but it's not a real one.
Skull
or is
Bones,
it?
Baby.
Yeah. What is it? The lodge that the Flintstones belong to? That Fred and Barney are part of?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Water Buffaloes?
Water Buffaloes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's what it was like.
Scientology meeting.
So she can anyway. He's going to take her to his Freemason Lodge meeting or whatever, so she can jack off in a coffin or whatever they do at those things. All I know about those lodges is that women aren't allowed, so I don't know why Peggy Sue is joining. Hey, they can show up to certain meetings.
Can they?
Yeah, I know. I went to a Freemason
you said
dinner or whatever, and they allow female family members of people, but they have like a special role that they have to fill, and they can't they don't go to the actual meetings. So I don't think there'd be any way that they'd bring her to a secret, super secret ceremony like they do in this.
Dude,
but who
if
knows?
you would have joined the Freemasons, we all would have been doing so much better by proximity.
Yeah, right.
It's just how things work in this country.
Yeah.
Except for me.
It's not the feeling I got from the guys that I talked to who were actual Freemasons at the club that I went to, but maybe they're just that
working in construction or something.
Yeah, they all just kind of seem like weirdos.
Yeah.
Well, in the car, Grandpa says he thinks he can help Peggy get back to her reality by doing some eyes wide shut ceremony or whatever with the lodge members. They all throw on their magic underwear and explain that their lodge was started by a time traveler in the first place. So, yeah, these guys definitely raped kids.
Oh, my God.
I don't make the rules, man.
Oh, God damn it.
Well, they do some zany ceremony with a bouzouki player, some eggs, and a bell while making bird hand puppets with their thumbs in their nostrils. And they chant in unison for a bit before the lights go out and Peggy Sue disappears. And they all think Peggy went back to her time, but somehow Charlie was able to run in, grab Peggy Sue, and whisk her outside without any of the old bastards seeing him. In perfect silence in like a second.
Yeah.
When the lights go out.
Yeah, he's real swift.
Yeah.
That's Lucky Chucky.
Charlie tells her he's going to quit singing and work at the appliance store, and that his dad gave him 10% of the business. He says that she must have been scared to settle down with him since he wouldn't be able to support her, and then gets down on one knee and proposes, but she says that he betrayed her and that he was never there for her and the kids, which is ever so slightly confusing to this 17-year-old version of Charlie.
The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. She says she's not crazy enough to marry him twice, and Charlie apologizes for not being what she wants him to be in a low, raspy voice before popping back into Pee Wee Herman mode, saying, "Here, it's a birthday present." He hands her the locket.
He does that a few times where he like talks real low and then
loses the character voice he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, he's just doing actual, like, I feel like that's how Charlie actually sounds, but he puts on this weird voice to be like, I don't know what he's going for, but
goofy, to be entertaining.
He hands her the locket that she had throughout the reunion and that she was desperate to find when she woke up in the past. She opens it to find a picture of the two of them as babies rather than her kids, like in the reunion.
But she mistakes
she's like, look, it's our kids. Or how did you get a picture of our kids? Actually, I don't remember their names because she says it like twice in the whole movie.
Sid and Dexter. Dave and Buster, I think.
Yeah. And he's like, no, I got it from your mom. It's us as babies. Like, what? Okay.
I guess because they look like what their kids look like as babies. Makes sense.
Peggy Sue hugs Charlie and says she still loves him, and they fall to the ground in each other's arms. And we suddenly cut to a fading in and out dream sequence of the reunion. Beth, Peggy's daughter, trying to wake her, an old version of Peggy's mom, a doctor explaining Peggy had a problem with her heart that required a defibrillator, her old dad, Beth saying Charlie has been by Peggy's side every day, Charlie saying he loves Peggy Sue, and finally Peggy Sue waking up in a hospital bed. And the Tin Man was there, and the Scarecrow was there, and the Lion was there too.
And you were the Lion. Yeah, that's a weird, I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to tell a lot of exposition, I guess, because she has a heart attack.
She had a heart attack,
crazy.
So she's had a near-death experience, and that Charlie's been by her side the whole time because he still loves her, and we're all supposed to feel warm and fuzzy.
And her son didn't even come to visit while she was dying.
Thing too. They're like, we're just not going to cast.
Like, why even say that she has a son if you're never going to feature him in the movie at all, other than name drop him a couple times?
I think to explain why Helen Hunt is young
old
in that scene, and still living at home, because I'm sure that they wrote themselves in the corner thinking like, well, it's like 25th anniversary of her getting pregnant. So
oh shit, we got to have a kid who's 25. Anyway,
but I think that is supposed to explain that her parents were there visiting her at some point, because we see old versions of them, old in comparison
and so
to what we just saw.
She, through her coma or whatever, had flashes of them showing up.
Yeah.
We see old Charlie singing Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly to his estranged wife by her bed, looking exhausted. So the song Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly exists in this universe, but the movie and story is based on the song in our universe.
But I think Peggy Sue Got Married, the song, exists in that reality too.
Okay. And she just happens to be named Peggy Sue.
Yeah.
And then,
just like people in this reality are named Brittany, and there was a song about Brittany's mom and how she had it going on.
It was Stacy's mom, I thought.
Oh, yes, that's Stacy. My bad.
So it's saying Francis Ford Coppola should make a movie called Stacy's Mom Has Got It Going On.
I'd watch it. Have
the main character's named Brittany.
Brittany.
People keep calling her Stacy.
I'm not Stacy. What the fuck?
No.
Stacy?
Also, I guess he dyed his hair brown sometime between her passing out at the reunion and now, because he had blonde/gray hair at the reunion, and now he's got either a wig or something. Different colored hair. She wakes up.
Really went more all out on the old person makeup in this little moment than the reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I don't know, maybe that was like Francis Ford Coppola just being like, well, they need to seem much older in this because they're real haggard and sad, and she just woke up from having a heart attack. I don't know.
Or maybe she's been in a coma for 10 years.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened.
Her son didn't show up because he actually died at some point.
Jesus fuck.
Maybe he died at childbirth. That's what happened.
Oh my God.
That's why everything went off the rails
Jesus
for Peggy Sue and Charlie.
Yeah, oh my God. Okay. Anyway. We need some more tears. Stick that at the end.
By the way, our son died.
This reminds me of the way our son died.
He died of a heart attack that you passed on to him genetically.
She wakes up and is happy to see him, and he apologizes for dipping Lucky Chucky in everything that moves. Peggy asks about Janet, and Charlie says he dumped her because she thought that Big Bopper was a hamburger. So I guess that makes it all better, because she's stupid. And he doesn't want to be with her anymore.
She was a dumb bitch. Sorry, I love you. She had a real head for
It's
knowing.
so romantic. It's exactly what she wants to hear. Charlie shows her.
This was reshot and added to the movie on purpose.
Coppola wrote this part.
And then Nick Cage's boss comes in with a big grin on his face and goes, "Hey, you bought a bunch of money."
You're a famous musician now.
I want to sign you to this multi-billion-dollar deal.
We sold your album that you recorded with those black guys way back when.
Here's the royalties. We've been looking for you for 25 years.
Yeah.
Oh, and that game you bet on, and actually you won a bunch of money for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
you won. And the lawsuit we filed on your behalf for the Beatles ripping off your song.
Oh, my God.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Then Big Fate shows up with a crack pipe.
What, you ain't got no lucky crack pipe?
Anyway.
Shoot her again. I can still see her soul dancing.
That's what they were doing when they were giving her the electric shock.
The shock.
Shock
Vin
her
Rames is
again.
shocking her back
Harmonica.
to life.
And then fucking iguana just walks over the top of her.
Who's fucking
at the
iguana is
reunion.
this?
The doctor's played by Werner Herzog. She had a heart attack.
She almost died from a mild cardiac infarction.
If it were not for these iguanas, she would not be living.
Charlie shows her a book written by Michael Fitzsimmons with a dedication to her that says, "To Peggy Sue and a Starry Night." So that actually happened? Is Beth Michael's kid instead in that reality? In that reality? What? What?
It would have been their son, right?
Maybe
I'm guessing
he listened to Peggy Sue Got Married, the song, and it really helped him as a writer.
Or like, did he just have a book?
Polygamous cult?
Or like, did he have a book that got published while she was in a coma and he dedicated it to her because she had a heart attack while they were on stage at the reunion? That's what I thought kind of happened. Like, she's been out for a lot longer than we thought.
It'd make a hell of a lot more sense than he somehow had this experience on that sound stage with her.
So I guess we should take it to mean that did happen in reality, their one night stand, and then he was just remembering and dedicated the book to her after she had a heart attack.
Timeline wise, though, I think he might have been her dad or whatever. Or no, that would have been the boy's dad.
The boy's dad,
yeah. I'm sure we all have those the same question about how the fuck did that book, that dedication come into play? Does that mean they actually had sex? So if she got pregnant at 18, then that means that would be his son, right?
Mm-hmm. So
everyone knows you can't
sort
get
of
pregnant
cheated
the first
on
time.
Charlie. That's true.
Maybe that's why she wants to take it back. Like yeah. I kind of tit for tat. He was just doing what I did already, but he didn't know about it.
Yeah, there you go.
I was dipping somebody else's pen into my well.
That's how
we were on
movie
a break.
reality goes.
There's your sitcom reference that no one's going to get. We were on a break.
They wrote Friends. They wrote that episode of Friends down the road.
Okay, anyway,
That's
moving on.
how movie reality goes, though. If you cheat, but he cheated, then it's okay. They cross each other out.
Yeah. You heard that stuff he was saying about Hemingway. I mean, who can resist that?
He wants to be like Kerouac, of course.
A motorcycle, goddammit. It's irresistible.
I was already wet before I got on the motorcycle. Then Fitzsimmons Persimmons came out.
Just fits him and she fits him in.
God damn it. Wasn't an easy task, let me tell you, but I made it happen.
For the first time, it was like a baby's arm holding an apple.
Hey, that's Peggy Sue Got Fingered. Married.
It's the lesser known sequel.
Peggy Sue says that she had a strange experience where she went back to high school and spent a lot of time with Charlie, and that he wouldn't give up because he loved her so much, just like in Valley Girl. A major lesson from the 80s seems to be no matter how many times a girl rejects you and tells you she wants nothing to do with you, you keep at it, and eventually she'll fall madly in love with you. You can even cheat on her.
Exactly. And if she doesn't end up with you, just come to school with an AR-15.
Oh my God. God damn it. No. Oh, Jesus. Fuck.
It always comes back to your birthday, doesn't it?
Yep. Columbine. That's
that's the reference.
That's the reference we're making.
Happy birthday, Patrick.
Sorry.
Charlie says, "Oh Christ, I would cut off my arm for another chance." But Peggy says she needs some time. He looks devastated and he gets up to leave. But as he walks out, Peggy Sue invites him over to his house for dinner with his kids.
Your dog lives with your kids.
I was not expecting that reference.
Weatherman.
Dad, why do all your buddies from high school call me Camel Toe?
And, he starts crying and he hugs her. The camera pulls back, revealing Charlie's panty line through his see-through pants, and but they reshot to include this. And we're treated with another unsettling mirror trick photography shot and of reflections that don't quite match the movements of the characters. We fade to black and are left with the lesson that it's okay to cheat if you are really, really sorry about it later on. The end. But it may or may not have happened.
His fucking panty line.
What? That was
pants.
so
You
weird.
could see it so clearly. Like, what the fuck? Why is he wearing those pants? What a choice.
Oh. I think he caught it in the dailies and was like, fuck, we can't reshoot it. Because I just had to call everybody in 6 months after we wrapped to film this one scene. I can't bring him back again.
I mean, sure, it works because now you understand what she saw in him. A tight ass, a nice firm ass through those pants.
She likes pantyhose. He's wearing the pantyhose she invented.
Like his nephew Nick's career, Francis Ford Coppola's body of work can be a tad bit divisive. What could be one person's pig might be another's arsenal. But one thing is for sure, he always makes something memorable. For better or worse. That's why I encourage all of you to take a deep dive into the work of Francis Ford Coppola by pouring yourself a glass of his delicious wine and heading over to lovedagainmedia.com. Loved Again Media is a small, family-owned online store fighting the good fight to keep physical media alive, to make sure that you can watch what you want, when you want, regardless if it's available on streaming platforms. They offer an incredible library of movies starting at just $4 for DVDs and $5 for Blu-rays, video games, vinyl records, and subscription boxes, so you're sure to find something that you're into. Head over to lovedagainmedia.com and get an extra 15% off their already low prices by entering our promo code ONECAGE at checkout.
We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
Coppola questions. This is just me. I was kind of thinking out loud. Does Kathleen Turner look exactly the fucking same at the reunion and in high school because it's like in her mind?
Yeah.
Or was that just like the makeup was supposed to be light? So I don't know.
I guess like it's cheaper to do it that way. And I kind of expect, I think a modern movie would have done a shot or a mirror shot or something of a younger version of her that other people are seeing, and we're just seeing the older version of her because that's what she sees herself. But I guess it was just sort of implied because everybody recognized her, and so obviously she doesn't look like a 40-year-old woman to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny. Like we're supposed to think of her as like a 17-year-old.
Yeah, but she's older than her mom.
Yeah. So was Charlie trying to kill Peggy Sue with that pillow, or what? What the fuck was that?
Yeah. And does she know about it? Why does she want to take him back if he tried to kill her?
Maybe she just imagined that all.
And if she doesn't know about it, then how do we see it? Because again, it's all in her head.
Maybe he admitted later on, like during an argument or something.
When you slept with that guy,
I was going to kill you, Peggy Sue.
You should be thanking me.
God, yeah, that does
Lucky
seem
you're
like
not
something
dead, Johnny.
He doesn't really have the voice when he's older.
No,
does he? He's like mellowed out.
I think he was putting it on, you know, in the high school version of himself to like. Maybe he was trying to like emulate a different pop singer or something. I don't think Fabian had that voice or anything, but maybe.
Or maybe that's just what Nick Cage thought 17-year-old version of Charlie would sound like. Like his balls hadn't dropped yet, or I don't know. Or he was just awkward and a goofy nerd and he grew out of it, but not really because he's just a skeezy appliance salesman. I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt to me like it was just that's what everybody's awkward when they're a teenager, and he was really playing it up for some reason that we know nobody liked but him.
Yeah.
And then he, you know, it would be stretching the bounds of imagination to imagine the 45-year-old version of him still making that sounding like that, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it like doesn't make any fucking sense in the movie, but it makes the movie more enjoyable. Him doing that goofy ass voice.
Yeah, I kind of hate that it does because I was totally ready to be like, he ruined it with his performance, but he doesn't really. It kind of helps add to it.
Makes it more like childlike, I guess, in his performance. Because if you think about it, remember yourself at 17. You're basically a child, you know.
And he's trying to really play up that he's a dweeb, you know. He's like super obsessed with music, and his friends are weirdos. Like Jim Carrey's his best friend and stuff. Like he's a nerd.
Yeah. And potentially, like if you think about him actually being into Stravinsky, there's probably a lot more to him beyond the character that we see.
Well, there's also the part when they're at the makeout party or whatever, where he's like obsessing over baseball players or something. He's talking about pitchers that went on to do something,
having
and like he's just
20-game winners,
and he's just name dropping like tons of different players and stuff. So it's like he's obviously geeking out about other stuff other than music, but still, he's got that kind of geek tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was an interesting part because they're all talking about sex.
Yeah.
And like who's easy, like what chicks are easy at school, and he's going on about
like baseball cards or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, he's going off about the Detroit Tigers or whoever, or White Sox or whatever.
Yeah. I think it was the Tigers, which makes me wonder if this was supposed to be set in Michigan or something. Because they never say. I think it's supposed to be like anywhere USA.
That's obviously California though.
They did a lot of that in the 80s with like the 50s, like callbacks to the 50s of like, well, it could be anywhere in America at that time.
Mm-hmm. Anywhere that has palm trees.
Yeah.
And sound stages that look exactly like the Valley.
how did Charlie know where Peggy Sue's grandparents lived and the lodge and all that stuff? Like, how did he get there? Yeah, I mean, sure, he drove, obviously, but
maybe he asked her parents.
Why did he go there in the first place? Like, why?
Well, he says that he got the locket, the picture of her as a baby from his mom or her mom. So maybe he went to her mom and was like, I really need to talk to Peggy Sue. Where is she? And she's like, oh, she's out at her grandparents' house. Here's the address. And then maybe he went there and then talked to her grandma, and her grandma told him where the lodge was at. So, you know,
I guess
all the hoops you had to jump through when Google Maps didn't exist. And social media. And now she just tag herself outside of it, and you just be able to cyber stalk her.
Should be Instagram and live from there. About to do a crazy ceremony. Hashtag
right.
cute.
And you just geolocate it.
He's got fucking spyware on her cell phone.
That was back in the days of just MapQuest, I think.
MapQuest and Flash dated.
Macromedia Flash.
Macromedia Flash.
So did any of that shit actually happen?
That's my main one.
Yeah, that's my main question. Only because of the dedication to her in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a very odd thing to add.
Yeah. And I feel like you could still say it didn't happen. It was just her remembering things or recalling stuff or coming to the conclusion that she would do things the same, even if she had the chance not to. And the dedication came because he was just getting the book published while they were at the reunion, and then she passed out, and he dedicated it to her because she didn't know if she was going to die or something, and I don't know.
But he wasn't at the reunion.
No, but
oh no, you're right, he wasn't. I was thinking of
sends
Richard.
the book to her hospital room, and I wonder if it was like I don't know about the Starry Night thing though, but he's dedicates it to her because maybe he secretly was in love with her because she was the prom queen and always thought about her and helped him motivate him in life.
Yeah, maybe
or
that
whatever.
was it. They were star-crossed lovers. They never actually got together.
Yeah.
Because if they did, she would have known that he wanted to go off and raise chickens on a commune, and she wouldn't have gone through the whole thing with him in her vision or version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the grass isn't greener. Sometimes the grass is a polygamous cult in fucking Utah.
Which I felt like that's kind of the road the movie was trying to take. Like, sometimes your life is
better than you think it is.
It's not what you wanted it to be, but it's not as bad as you think it could be. And given the chance, you'd probably just do the same thing over again, but maybe do a little bit better. Maybe, something. I don't know. I feel like there's a message to the movie that's muddled that it's kind of hard to figure out what they were exactly going for.
Yeah, I think that's right. And then my last question is, do you think Charlie kept it in his pants after Peggy Sue forgave him, or do you think they get back together? I think they get back together.
I think they get back together.
But does Charlie learn the error of his ways?
I think that would be dependent upon how she comes back into the relationship, because based on through the time traveling backwards, it seems like she was a bit of an instigator in their failed marriage by not really being a full participant. So she shares her blame. So I think if her attitude was, "Hey, I'm going to make this work because this is the road that I would always end up on," then I think their relationship would end up working.
She also says that he was never there for the kids. So I wonder
which is that
true,
or is that
that's
just
kind of what I was
her
thinking, like, is this last? Because all of the growth came from her in this flashback, not from him. He's still the guy who cheated on her and was sort of an absentee dad or whatever, and he just wants her back because she almost died and he realized how much he fucked up. But it's like, is he really going to change that much? Because she went through this journey, but he didn't. And I think part of it maybe was her realizing that she drove him away because of...
Yeah. She might be an alcoholic based on that one scene that we saw.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like she was not happy and hadn't been happy since they had kids. So she had driven him away subconsciously and didn't realize it, and still blamed him for all of that, and her going back and realizing that she was basically driving him away even when she had the chance to go back and do it all over again. That maybe she realized that it was, it was kind of a her problem more than a him problem. So maybe that makes it work, but
well, what if he finds a chick who doesn't think that the Big Bopper is a hamburger?
Right.
Does he still just go off to the next chick?
Yeah, until he finds out that she thinks it's that game, that Bop It game. I love that game. I love the Big Bopper. Then you twist it, you pull it. Dun 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 dun.
Such a head for knowing.
The only one I wrote as it was going on was like, why doesn't she care about her kids? And then she started caring about her kids, but it was like in the third act where she brings it up, and it didn't sit right with me. It was weird because I feel like that would be the one thing that you wouldn't want to undo. As a parent, you could fuck your whole life up with everybody and your life partners and stuff, but you still would love your kids to the point where you wouldn't want to erase them. So unless this is an even darker story and she just doesn't like her kids either. And
I was gonna say maybe she doesn't like her kids.
And then
she wished she had
she's
killed
an
her
even
kids.
bigger bitch than we realize, and it's like she is the cause of all her own problems. But I don't think that's
projecting with the pillow. It's like, I wish I could have done that to my kids.
Oh boy.
Jesus.
But yeah, it seemed weird to me, and then it was like, oh, she finally brings it up when she's talking to Richard about like, I miss my kids and that that life.
But she's still, even after that moment,
said she doesn't want to do
with
it.
Charlie to have the kid. But then she does. I don't know, like, because that's her birthday night that they end up sleeping together in the barn. So maybe it was like, or the greenhouse or whatever. So maybe it was like she had to come full circle to like the decision that ended up creating her children in the first place and getting her married.
I think that could be part of it. Like, that's saying that allowed her to realize, I do actually miss my kids. And then when she's talking to her grandparents, telling her grandma, she named her daughter after her grandma and stuff. And it's like all this reminder, like that's why she wants to get back to her time. Which I think is because she's telling her grandpa about it too. That's the instigator for getting out of this life. And like, okay, she's done trying to undo her past. She wants to get back to her present. And that means doing the same things that she did that got her to that present in the first place.
I wonder if her grandpa was like, why didn't you name a kid after me? You had a son, clearly.
What's the final tally?
Hi, Joel. Do you want to hit us with the old curse tracker?
Yeah, I went quite a while through the movie without getting any. And it's a PG-13 movie, so thought maybe there wouldn't be any of it toward the end. Which, again, this happens in several of these movies where it just all starts coming at the end as things start to get, third act unravels a bit and everybody gets a little afraid and character development happens and he gets a little pissed off. So we got some curses in there. We got two hells, 2 dams, and 1 Jesus and 2 Christs. So I lumped them both into the Jesus Christ and 3 of those total. And that was it. So a total of 7 for this movie, which brings our total over 700. Just to kick off season 4, we're at 701 total curses.
Yeah, towards the end of the movie, they always get a little wired, whatever else he says there.
A little tired.
It's sort of like he's kind of the geeky, nerdy guy at the beginning, and he's kind of dweeby and awkward, and then he gets more and more pissed off as she runs him through the ringer emotionally, and then he swears a little more as things go on.
As he gets more and more confused as to why she's blaming him for things he hasn't done yet.
Right.
A runtime, this was kind of in the middle, 103 minutes. Felt a little long. I feel like you could have trimmed a few things out of this, but at the same time, I also feel like there was more character development that could have happened.
Yeah.
But, there's only so much you can do. Hour 43 feels long for a goofy kind of rom-com. Could you call it a rom-com? I don't know. I guess.
I don't know what you would call this fucking movie.
Supposedly it's not full-on drama.
No.
Dramedy.
Yeah.
Nudity. This was a PG-13 movie, so no breasts or anything.
One panty line.
One panty line. It was very sexy. I mean, I paused it, but no nudity. State and country tracker, this one was kind of hard to figure out because they never say where it is, and I do think that it was supposed to be like anywhere. Could be anywhere in the 50s, America in general. But I put California because it was shot in Santa Rosa and Petaluma, and it felt very California. It had some very California moments. So that makes 11 times going to California, which is ahead of New York, which is at 9 times. Those are by and far the most used locations, I think, in film in general. So it's no shock that
it'd probably shake out that way if you were to take every film ever made and
one or the other
locations.
Just like in Europe, it's probably almost always like London, Paris, those types of places. Budget versus gross. This was a $18 million budget, and it made $41.5 million. So a profit. Not a huge profit, not a huge windfall or anything. But that brings our grand total up to $1.316.5 billion budget, $2.944.3 billion gross. Like I said, I just feel like these numbers don't mean anything anymore. Just humongous numbers at this point. And we're not even halfway through, so we'll see. See where it all shakes out. Top grossing. This is actually, I think, in the top 10 or 15 at 41.5, sandwiched in between Matchstick Men and The Wicker Man. I feel like we talk about The Wicker Man every episode of like things end up right where The Wicker Man was.
Yeah.
At least it did better than Wicker Man. And you extrapolate that out, 1986 money, it did way better than The Wicker Man. I think The Wicker Man had a higher budget than Peggy Sue Got Married made, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was pretty expensive.
Yeah, I feel like it was like 40 something like that. Ratings, this was our 10th PG-13. Since it's the season opening, whatever, season premiere, whatever that word is. I'll go through them quickly. 0 Gs, 4 PG, 10 PG-13, 23 R-rated, and 6 unrated. Which leads us over to the Cage Kill Tracker.
Once again, super easy. He didn't kill anybody. There was a moment where he might have.
Yeah,
we were close, which would have been an interesting, twist. So 0 kills, which still leaves us at 201 for the entirety of the show that we've done so far. And then deaths, he didn't die. Obviously, he lived. So we're still only at 13 deaths out of all the films we've done.
That's still a pretty high percentage. I feel like it's like a quarter of the movies he's died in.
Yeah, he's died in quite a few.
It'd be interesting to take a snapshot right now and then see if that percentage holds true throughout all of them.
About a quarter. Yeah. I bet it does. Something like that.
So what did you think? Let's rank this film on the Cageometer.
All right, that leads us over to the most important question that we ask on this show. Vince, where does Peggy Sue Got Married from 1986 rate on your Cageometer?
Oh, movie, I got to give it a 4. Only because I feel like Nigel said, there's a message here, there's a theme here, but it's so muddled and just off, and some bad acting, some bad writing, and some bad decision making by Coppola to go in and re-edit the end and just muddy things even more.
It might have been a worse ending.
Who knows?
You know?
I mean, I guess we'll never know. I don't feel like there was any real character development. Peggy's story going back and forth, like, does she love him? Does she not love him? I don't really feel like they did a good job at actually fulfilling that progression of she hates him to now she's in love with him again, and like really having him redeem himself in her mind. Her character development is god awful. Like we talked about, most of the time she's the villain, or she comes off as the villain. She's not a very likable character. So no point in this film was I ever rooting for her. So I feel like there were a lot of issues with this film that made it less enjoyable for me personally. So I'll give it a 4 out of 10. As far as Nick's performance goes, I'll give him a 5. It wasn't great, but oddly, it was probably the most entertaining part of the film for me. I think Nigel said, I didn't think I would enjoy the voice, but it grew on me, and it was the least problematic part of the film for me. I felt like I was focused on all the other issues that I was having with the film versus his performance. I think he could have been way crazier. I was actually expecting him to be a lot more nutty, and he wasn't. So that kind of saved him. So for me, it was kind of like a middle of the road performance where I'm not great, not awful. So 4 for the film, 5 for Mr. Cage.
Yeah, he sort of is the straight man in some of the parts.
Yeah, some parts he is, which is really weird. Really weird.
Weird for talking like Pokey from fucking Gumby the whole time. All right, Nigel, where does Peggy Sue Got Married rate on your Cageometer?
Yeah, this one's hard because it's, I don't know. I still don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I don't like it. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's good. I think I have to go with a 4 as well, just because I don't think it quite hits that bar of like 5 being like midpoint of like, yeah, there was a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff. I think it's more bad. It's just, it's so confusing how we're supposed to feel about this movie and what we're supposed to take away from it. And we've already said it, but it's like, what's the, it feels like there should have been a version where she goes through a more clear-cut character development and understanding, and we understand along with her that maybe she's the problem in all of this, and that has this self-realization. And I don't know. It's hard. This is really hard to articulate. I don't really know why. Mm-hmm. It's just because the movie's so ambiguous and weird with its messaging. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there was that one scene when she tells Richard that she doesn't want to get married, period. That felt like, okay, that's the character arc. That's what she's decided. She doesn't, I mean, that's what, or maybe that's what she was going for at the start. This is a terrible review. I don't know. I just feel like this movie has me confused.
It's muddled like the movie.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, okay, you kind of get with it. We all get that idea. If we could go back in time to high school, what would you do differently? And, you know, especially if you're not happy with how your life turned out, what would you know, wouldn't we all like that chance? And she gets it, but then the movie just sort of like she fucks around and like, you know, has flings with people and talks to a guy who becomes rich about getting inventions and doing stuff. And like, it doesn't really land. Like, it's not comedic. It's not as funny as it thinks it needs to be. It's not as dramatic as it feels like it is. I don't know. I just kept feeling like this guy did The Godfather and he did Apocalypse Now, and he's doing this movie, you know, about a girl who goes back to her teenage years, and this is the best we got. You know, it's just yeah. And there was like I didn't feel like there was any chemistry between Nick Cage and Kathleen Turner. I do think his voice was detractive to it. Like, it's like, what does she see in him? He's such a weirdo. He's such a goofball. Why is she with him in the first place? And she's supposed to not be. She's supposed to be trying to drive him away. And then she gets back with him again. But again, it's like at the end, but it's like, why? Is it because what she sees in him? Or is it just because she wants her kids back? You know? But, I don't know. The movie doesn't really tell us all that well. And yeah. So this is a movie I'd never heard of before we started doing the show. After watching it, I'm like, okay, I kind of get why it's not one of those ones where everybody's like, this is a must watch for Nick Cage fans.
This is another one like Moonstruck where I knew women who really liked this movie, but not a lot of men who really liked it. And maybe it lands different from women, and maybe that's where we're not really the target audience.
Yeah, but I feel like that could have worked better if she had this moment of self-actualization that paid off or paid through. It was like she has this moment and then goes back on it, and we end up in the same place, except maybe a little bit better because she gets back with her estranged husband. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
Mediocre.
Yeah. On the side of a little bad. As far as Cage performance, I think I'll do a 5 as well. Kind of the same reasons, like it's that Vince talked about. Like the voice I thought was really going to screw the part over and ruin the movie, and I don't think it did. It did kind of at first, but you get used to it, and you kind of got the sense of why he was doing it. He was just trying to play up this guy being an awkward dweeb and stuff, but it ends up elevating the movie a bit because it adds some kind of memorability to it. You know, otherwise it would just be like if that had just been Dennis Quaid just being a random guy, the movie would just be like, okay, you'd have nothing to remember coming off of it.
Yeah, this would have just been a really boring movie if Cage hadn't made those decisions.
Yeah,
would have been even more awful.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I said, I didn't really get any chemistry between the two of them. I didn't really get it toward the end or at the conclusion of it. It just kind of felt like they were both like they didn't really like each other, which kind of was true based on what we know now of the behind the scenes. Like,
yeah,
he was pissing her off, and she didn't really want to. She didn't know why he was doing the voice, and had to just put up with it and do her the best she could with her scenes while he's acting opposite of that. So, yeah, early on in his career, sort of trying to do his own thing, trying to make his way, maybe not bend to the wishes of his uncle, who's sort of this mammoth filmmaker. I guess he can respect him a bit for that, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like the best performance out of him. Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of a downer. But
I thought I was being harsh, but I actually gave the movie a 5, and it. Kind of the same thing where it's just like right in the middle, like mediocre. I did enjoy it at parts. I feel like when I did the breakdown rewatching it, sometimes I end up enjoying the movies more when I do that. And I think it was more because I just looked forward to Cage being goofy and doing his shtick. I think there's a message that is muddled, like you said, that we can identify with, but we're confused through the whole thing of like, okay, like, I would go back and I would change some stuff, sure, but my life turned out the way it did because of the decisions that I made back then, and ultimately that was probably the best course of my life going that it could have. But at the same time, it's like even at the end, she's like kind of going back and forth, like you said in that moment with Richard, where she's just kind of like, well, Peggy Sue got married, and that's that, and that's what fucked everything over. So I'm not doing that, but I really miss my kids. I'm like, well, those two things go together. That's maybe you don't want to be with Charlie anymore. Maybe that's the whole idea. But
she's not like in her future life. She's not with him anymore. So it's like.
Yeah.
Maybe the movie could have had her accept that she doesn't need to be with Charlie anymore because they're not supposed to be a thing. Yes, they made kids and their kids are great and they love their kids, but it's okay to have your own life now and not be living in the past and dwelling on your past mistakes. That's a more fulfilling ending, I think, to a movie than the sort of happy ending we got. And the confusing thing is sorry, I'm stomping on your review, but now that I'm thinking about it, I forgot what I wanted to say. Francis Ford Coppola wanted to add more tears to the ending of the movie, but the movie ends on kind of a happier note, so I don't really understand what he was going for. It's
supposed to be like by trying to add
tear. I guess you could have emotional tears or whatever. But still,
she forgave him even though he was a piece of shit and did horrible things.
Right, because he was sad that she'd almost died or something.
I mean, you get the sense at the reunion that he's very upset that he's not with her anymore.
Yeah.
But
I think that's why he went to the reunion. I think that was supposed to be the intention behind his character showing up to the reunion, to tell her, hey, I'm no longer with Janet and I want to try to make this work. And he thought that they'd be able to recapture that magic by being at
in the place where their magic happened in the first place.
I think that's how it was supposed to play out. But like I said, going through the first act, that first act is so the opening of the first act is so jumbled and so rushed and so weird that you don't have. I mean, they're cramming in so much shit so they can get to her being back in the 60s that you don't really understand what the fuck these characters. You get like surface level character motives.
Yeah,
and 10 seconds with him before she goes into fucking cardiac arrest.
Just maybe that's how they should have ended it. She just died.
I personally think it would have been a more enjoyable story if she had died. If she had been able to relive her life, realizing that she was always going to find her way back to him, and now she has to live with that regret for eternity.
Jesus, I was thinking more of like she could have come to grips with her life and make peace with the choices that got her to where it's. And then she died. That would be a fulfilling one. Go hang out with her grandparents or whatever.
Her life was better than she thought it was.
Maybe that was the original ending, and he wanted to reshoot it to be like, okay, maybe,
Nigel's version is better. She accepts that her life always led to her children, and her children were the bright spot in the darkness that was her marriage. And now she can make peace with that and go be with her grandparents in heaven or whatever reality she has.
I do get the sense that she had a lot of good times with Charlie. It's just, there were, that's what reality is. That's what adult life is. And, when you're a kid, you think everything's going to work out just perfectly. And she probably thought of her childhood, years as like this perfect time where she had the whole world in front of her. And then she made these decisions that ended up causing her to get pregnant at 18 or whatever. And then everything went off the rails, and if she could redo it, she'd do everything different. But everything she has is a direct result of those decisions and the happenstance that happened to her at that time. I don't know. I feel like it's all over the place. It's muddled. Like that's
it comes back to that. You don't know. How are we supposed to feel about it? We don't know. Yeah. The movie could have made it clearer.
The movie could have definitely made it clearer.
He goes back and muddles it even more by reshooting that ending.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if he reshot anything else, if it was just the ending and that was it.
Yeah, I do too. Like I said, I wonder if he went and reshot that scene with her and Benny out in the field on the soundstage with the worst maybe ever. Because it just everything else was shot so well and on location.
I mean, that would kind of track because they have the Starry Night conversation and then the dedication in it. So if you filmed both of those scenes to sort of bookend it into that storyline.
And that
maybe at one point he did expect it to like be a reality, like, and things were different in this. I don't know.
Back to the Future style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or they were like, shit, we can't do that. Back to the Future already did it.
Yeah. Like, hey, that movie was good. Shit. We need to do something different.
Be good, and let's make this more confusing for our audience.
All right. As far as Cage, I gave him a 5 as well. I don't know, man. I waffle on it because I really enjoyed it, but maybe it's just because I really enjoyed Nick Cage doing goofy shit. So it's hard to evaluate it from a non-Cage fan perspective. But it did, like, that's the most enjoyable part of the whole movie is Nick Cage doing weird shit and talking about his hwang and all that kind of shit. Like, it's just so weird, and that's the only funny part of the show. Like, I don't feel like anything that Kathleen Turner did was all that funny, or any of the stuff around her character in general. Mm-mm. She was more the grounding force, and then he was just this wacky side character who made the movie actually have some humor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say that you guys haven't said about it. It's just kind of like a middle of the road performance. I don't know if it adds or subtracts in the grand scheme of the story that they were trying to tell that they didn't really tell very well. But like I said, I have a hard time because it really was my favorite part of the movie. So,
yeah,
that happened.
Yeah, that's the review.
Yeah, so
it's the best you can say about the movie.
Yeah, some things happened or didn't.
Hey.
You decide.
Yeah.
You decide.
I think you also just imagine McKay from Adaptation, the scriptwriter guy, whatever, just like railing against, like, you can't just make it all a dream. Like, that's scriptwriting 101. You don't tell a story that doesn't actually happen.
Yeah.
You know,
for Nolan,
definitely did not wow them in the end, like McKay said.
Yeah.
Or McKee.
Yeah. I mean, not to say we can write scripts, but if she'd actually died at the end and the whole thing was her coming to terms with her life, then that could have worked. Could have been like, it doesn't actually happen, but it did happen in the sense that it's her reliving her life and understanding her life choices, how they got her where it needed to be, and then she can move on.
Yeah, and appreciating them at that point. Like,
yeah.
Okay, I do appreciate that life that I have, and having a little bit of regret of not appreciating it in the moment, but she makes peace with it, and then she's able to move on.
Wish I had appreciated my husband more before he went off and cheated with a bimbo.
Yeah.
That would have been great if instead of seeing her parents in that moment, we just flashed to like the garbled TV noise that was in dark. Then it just ended with a grave. Peggy Sue.
Should make that edit.
With a sick, just
edit together.
Riff.
For 5 minutes straight.
Here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. These are the cagiest moments of the film.
You're the perfect girl for me. As in is, was, always will be.
Why, I oughta.
Oh, God.
Here, Charlie, my fortune cookies. Good run.
Thanks. What? Next week we'll be selling Sanyo remote control VCRs for $299.
Look, it's Dad.
Oh no, I'll go broke. You'll give away Mr. VC.
Blah. Blah.
Charlie?
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. I want to suck your blood. I also want to suck your Twinkie.
Am I dead?
No. You are the undead. Headache, huh?
You drive like a maniac!
In the past 2 years, I've been pleased to note that you and Mrs. Kilcher have provided your sacred trust with upbringing the woman that I plan to take off your hands. Dun, 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 dun.
She's not wasting any time.
Save it, woman, humiliator. You know, the first dances were rituals. Like fertility rites. You're the best. Make her love me, okay? Feed me, charge me. Go get her, Tiger. Indeed.
She's distorted.
Nancy, please. She seems to be a little bit nervous and confused.
Uh-huh.
Over-emotional and even a little bit irresponsible at times.
Uh-huh.
Charlie, about last night.
Hush. Hush, baby, hush. I've been thinking.
Let's make love.
What? You mean sex? Intercourse. You want to have intercourse? I've got the hair. I've got the teeth. I've got the eyes. Well, Peggy, look outside that window. I've got the car. I'm the lead singer. I'm the man. Why are you arguing with me?
It's over.
That's it for this episode of One Cage at a Time. As always, be sure to drop us an email at onecagepodcast@gmail.com to let us know if we missed anything, or hit us up with suggestions to improve the show, comments, compliments, or simply to gush about the legend that is Nicolas Cage. Next up, we're watching a film that has recently been bumped up to a Nicolas Cage record, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Thanks to a bunch of like added reviews, like newly added reviews. So like over the course of like the last 3 years, like 3 more reviews have been added. I don't know how that works.
It only takes 3 reviews.
It's only like 20 or some odd reviews because
funny.
You know, older movies, they have to go back and extrapolate out the review to figure out what the person was saying. Like, is it a 6 or what? You know, we have to make this basic. What were you trying to say with this? Thanks to a bunch of added reviews, Red Rock West was a critical hit even when it debuted back in 1993, but unfortunately was a box office bomb, as is usually the case with any film that makes you think at all. As we've seen on this show, most of our favorite films are not the movies that made a ton of money or did well in the theaters at all. I guess when you take a critical eye to some of these films, it's kind of like the critical darlings are not really crowd pleasers. Nick plays an unemployed ex-Marine who is mistaken as a hitman after he stumbles into a bar in Red Rock, Wyoming. But instead of doing the job, he steals the money, hooks up with the guy's wife that he's meant to kill, and they hatch a plan to kill her husband. That's kind of the story, I guess. Something like that, yeah. It's just kind of like he just kind of stumbles into this town and everything just goes off the rails for him from the moment he walks into Red Rock. It stars the incredible Dennis Hopper, who I love in everything. He even like the stupid Waterworld movie. Dennis Hopper was amazing in that movie. I love it every time he shows up in anything. Dennis Hopper, Laura Flynn Boyle, J.T. Walsh, and it is an absolute treat if you've never seen it, and a film I've been looking forward to talking about since we started doing this show forever ago. Anyways, make sure to check it out wherever fine films are sold or on your streaming service of choice. Until then, we'll say goodbye the way we do each and every episode with our Nicolas Cage quote of the film.
Doesn't Lucky Chucky want to come out?
Huh?
No. Your love machine, your throbbing thrill hammer, your thing.
You mean my wang?
Thanks for listening to One Cage at a Time. Visit us online at onecageatatime.com or follow us on the social media platform of your choice for more Nicolas Cage goodness. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you really like the show, become a member of our Patreon where you can download unedited and ad-free episodes, as well as listen to our follow-up show, Back Into the Cage, where we re-examine each movie to discuss what we missed the first time around, answer listener questions, and wax poetic about the man, the myth, the legend that is Nicolas Cage.